The manga opens with someone saying that she is home, but she immediately wonders who she is even saying that to. She feels completely worn out and begins wondering if she has caught a cold. She knows that she is supposed to return her auntie's game, but she decides that perhaps she can do it tomorrow. With that thought, she suddenly collapses onto her own knees, wondering why she keeps failing. At that very moment, the scene cuts to someone addressing Elise and declaring, in the name of Sigrid, the third prince of the Augusta Kingdom, that he is going to break off their engagement. Elise immediately wonders why something in the back of her mind is telling her that she knows him from somewhere. She begins questioning the strange feeling she is experiencing and realizes that it feels as though she has died and been reincarnated inside the world of a dating game. It is exactly like the light novel stories she has read before. She then remembers that this is the very game her auntie lent her. Elise wonders if she is now actually Elise, the main daughter of a wealthy and prestigious family. But it is not merely that she has become the heroine of the game. She realizes that she has been thrown directly into the scene where Elise is about to be condemned. The realization makes her completely crash out. She remembers that she lost her parents when she was a junior high school student and subsequently lived with her grandparents. However, they passed away 14 years ago, when she was 24. After that, she lived completely alone in a house deep in the mountains. Even so, she knows that she has always tried to be kind, fair, and decent toward others. Therefore, she absolutely cannot accept such a terrible ending. She desperately wonders if she has done something wrong to deserve this. Meanwhile, Sigurd observes that Elise has already gone into shock. Nevertheless, he declares that he has already made up his mind and is not going to change it. Actually, based on the memories she now possesses as Elise, she realizes that she is better off not marrying this prince anyway. If she were to marry him, she would apparently have to live a prisoner-like life until she gave birth to children. The thought makes her wonder what kind of inhumane system this is. If there were an employers' union in this world, she is certain that they would be absolutely furious about such treatment. No, she decides that she does not have to put up with this. Since he is the one telling her that she should simply leave, she concludes that she can happily leave him as well. With that realization, Elise announces that she will take his proposal and respectfully accepts his decision to break off their engagement. Her response leaves Sigurd even more confused. He clearly cannot believe that she has actually said that she accepts the broken engagement. Elise notices that he looks like a deer caught in headlights, and she finds it ridiculous because he is the one who started this in the first place. She also knows that the girl standing beside him is his new fiancée. Therefore, she decides that it is only appropriate for him to introduce the girl to her. Elise then asks the prince if he could please introduce the girl standing next to him. Sigurd immediately wonders what kind of game Elise is trying to play. He claims that she has been abusing and insulting his dear Marianne this entire time. Hearing this, Elise internally thinks that he is an idiot. In what world would someone call another girl his dear in front of his own fiancée? The situation makes absolutely no sense to her. Elise tells the prince that she cannot recall ever insulting Marianne, but she then asks whether this girl is his new fiancée now. The prince confirms that this is indeed the case and identifies her as his beloved Marianne von Dulda. Elise recognizes the name of the Baron family and immediately thinks that they must be involved in some extremely shady business. She is certain that the family has no future ahead of them. However, she quickly reminds herself that none of this is her business anyway. Therefore, Elise simply says that if that is the case, then she is genuinely happy for the two of them. Her reaction only leaves the prince even more confused. Elise then says that she has raised them all the best, making the prince question whether she is actually giving the two of them her blessing. Internally, Elise thinks that there is absolutely no way she wants to become trapped in the inhumane life of the royal family. There is no chance that she would willingly choose such a life for herself. So, without any hesitation, she decides to give them exactly what they want and confirms that she is indeed giving them her blessing. With that, Elise says that she will be on her way. The prince immediately shouts after her, saying that she is finally beginning to understand her position. He claims that he would never have taken a country girl from a frontier regional marquis family as his wife in the first place. This makes Elise think about how ignorant he is. The frontier region is not some barren countryside. It has the largest port in the entire country, and countless people and goods come and go because of the trade with the neighboring country. That is precisely why the region is actually rather prosperous. She cannot understand how a prince could possibly not know this. It is common knowledge, and she almost feels sorry for him because of his ignorance. However, she does not really care. In a typical game story, She could potentially be expelled from her family after having her engagement broken off, but Elise knows that the relationship between the members of her family is excellent. Therefore, she assumes that she should not have any problems. But then she notices that her father is literally flaming with anger. Her father is usually the calm and cool type, so Elise immediately wonders if he is actually furious and whether she is about to be expelled from the family after all. The Marquis points out that the prince has just called their frontier region rural. This makes Elise realize that her father is not angry at her at all. He is actually furious with the prince for insulting their territory. The king then apologizes to the Marquis and says that he has no idea what has caused this chaos. Elise internally thinks that the poor king is probably having a terrible time. She has been the prince's fiancée and has been patiently waiting to fulfill her duties until today, only for everything to suddenly fall apart. And now, on top of everything else, the Marquis is losing his temper. The Marquis looks toward his daughter and says that she appears exhausted. He then asks whether they may return to their own territory before long. The king tries to say something, but before he can continue, the Marquis tells Elise that they should make their way out. Actually, Elise really is exhausted. Therefore, she says farewell to the royal castle, thinking that she will never forget everything that has happened today. Now, inside the carriage, the Marquis calls out to Elise and apologizes that she has had to deal with that dumb prince until today. Hearing this, Elise thinks that it is actually not her father's fault at all. Everything has happened because of that idiot prince. In fact, she is rather happy that her engagement has been broken off. She then asks her father whether she is not going to be punished for what has happened. Her father immediately replies that, of course, she will not be punished. He admits that he thought the prince was better than this, but it seems that he has overestimated him. In the end, they have made the right decision by breaking off the engagement. Elise is internally delighted. She lets out what she considers a very sexy sigh at her silver fox, eye candy father, and literally thanks him a lot. The Marquis then suggests that they have a family discussion about what they should do next afternoon, asking whether Elise agrees. Elise is simply so glad that her father is completely on her side. Therefore, she happily agrees. Now that everything is settled, Elise realizes that once she arrives back in their territory, she is free to do whatever she wants. She can whip up some food, learn about farming, explore, exploit, and even work with the civil church. She can finally do whatever she wants to do with her life. The scene then cuts to Anise, who comes over to Elise and remarks that she is home surprisingly early. There is supposed to be a party tonight, so Anise wonders whether something has happened. Elise immediately realizes that this girl must be her maid, Anise. Elise tells Anise that it is a long story and then asks whether she can help her get changed. Anise immediately agrees and tells Elise to let her remove her corset. Both her memories of Elise and those from her previous life remain vague, but whenever she deliberately tries to recall them, the memories gradually come back to her. People might call her an opportunist, but this is simply how things work. There is not much else she can do. It is finally mealtime. She notices that the meals in this world seem to consist of rather plain, salt-based flavors. Her father announces that everyone should begin the meal, and it is finally time for them to eat. As she takes her first bite, she notices a subtle sweetness in the meat, combined with a mildly salty flavor. This is the usual taste found in this household. She would never say that the food is bad, but she cannot help missing the pepper soy sauce and soup stock that she is accustomed to from her previous life. Those familiar flavors are something she deeply misses. When it comes to dessert, they simply eat apples, barely doing anything to them beforehand. This makes her wonder why nobody bothers peeling them. To her, it is genuinely shocking that they simply eat the apples like that. Once everyone has finished their meal, her father informs the family that he has something important to tell them all. He explains that the matter may take some time and that everyone should move to the saloon. Now that she has decided that she will definitely use her cooking cheats to create incredible food in this world, she makes up her mind completely. Absolutely, she is going to make amazing food. It is now time for the family conference. During the conference, everyone learns that Elise's engagement has been broken off. Elise's mother is extremely furious at the useless prince and cannot understand how he could treat their Elise in such a manner. Her anger is directed entirely toward Prince Elliot, whom she considers responsible for the humiliation their daughter has suffered. Elise's father is equally displeased. He finds the prince's behavior unbearable, especially the way he acts and speaks with such selfishness. The entire situation has left a terrible impression on the family. Fortunately, they are excused from the matter rather quickly. In addition to everything else, The family also learns that they will be returning to their territory shortly. Elisa's mother immediately wonders whether they are actually permitted to leave the royal capital, considering that Elisa's father is the Minister of Foreign Affairs. However, he explains that it is not really his concern anymore. Tomorrow, he intends to return the duties and tools at the royal castle to their regular amount and restore everything to the level it was originally meant to have. Elisa's mother points out that their duties and tools have been reduced to only 1/5 of their original amount. Now that those restrictions are being lifted, however, their territory is going to become magnificent once again. Her handsome first brother, Caswell, then considers the strategic position of their territory. The borders of all the neighboring countries are formed by mountains, while their territory is the only one that possesses a land route connecting it to the surrounding region. Their territory also possesses the only large port with access to overseas routes, making its position exceptionally advantageous. As Elise looks at her handsome brother, Caswell, she begins to wonder whether his favorite color must be red. There is something about his presence and attitude that makes the thought cross her mind. Her handsome second brother, Toli, also points out the advantages of their territory. Although it is relatively small, it is mostly prosperous, and they have the freedom to do whatever they want with very little interference from the royal family. To Elise, it sounds absolutely wonderful. Caswell, meanwhile, is practically laughing and having the time of his life. Instead of continuing to deal with Prince Idiot and being forced to compromise their income, they are finally going to become prosperous again. The thought of returning to their former prosperity is clearly bringing him immense satisfaction. Their father then explains that tomorrow's conference will be moderated, and he asks Caswell to accompany him. He wants Caswell involved so that they can properly assert themselves and get everyone worked up. Caswell immediately understands what his father intends. They are suddenly going to take control of the negotiations and make sure that the outcome favors their territory. The royal family has already harmed their family's trade allies, and now they intend to show the royal family absolutely no mercy. Hearing all of this, Elise cannot help smiling to herself. She realizes that her family is far more dependable than she initially expected. She knows that she can rely on her family to handle all the royal affairs, while she can simply enjoy this Elise world exactly as she planned. She tells everyone that she is going to prepare for the journey back to their territory. Her family immediately asks whether she needs anything and whether there is anything they can do for her. She thinks about it for a moment before saying that she would like to go and purchase a botanical encyclopedia. She wants to learn about the vegetation of this world so that she can make use of her farming cheat and eventually create all kinds of food. However, she knows that she cannot be so blunt about her real intention. Instead, she explains that she wants to research edible plants and learn about how different types of vegetation can be processed and used for purposes other than simply eating them. Technically, she is not lying. From the looks of it, her family might even be interested in this subject as well. She realizes that she needs to give them one more push. She explains that she recently had a potion-making class at school where some grass juice accidentally got onto her hand. After some time passed, she noticed that the skin where the juice had touched had become incredibly silky and smooth. Everyone immediately becomes interested. She confirms that it really had become silky and smooth. She then adds that she has also heard rumors about people being deceived into purchasing second-rate drugs on the streets. Because of that, she believes that expanding her knowledge instead of keeping it limited will be beneficial, especially since the knowledge she gains could eventually help their territory. Her mother agrees that knowledge can certainly be useful as a form of countermeasure. This makes Elise wonder exactly what kind of countermeasures her mother has in mind, particularly when it comes to dealing with the royal family. Her father then points out that it is already late and that it is time for her to go to bed. Her brother, meanwhile, suggests that he accompany her tomorrow when she goes to purchase the botanical encyclopedia. Elise agrees to the idea. In truth, she is already tired, and she has been planning to go to bed tonight anyway. She is excused by everyone, and before leaving, she gives each of them a kiss. She simply acts as though all of her lies have worked perfectly. The whole thing feels almost like a scene from a movie, with the kisses looking as though they belong on the silver screen. Thinking once again about the incredible visual quality of this world, Elise cannot help feeling that the handsome members of her family are simply too good to be true. She even wonders who would have thought of making this world into a dating game. Her family reminds her that she has had a long day and tells her that she should get some sleep. Elise wishes everyone good night and tells them that she will see them all tomorrow. In her previous life, she died quietly and all alone. But in this world, she has a family that loves her. This is the new world she has been reincarnated into, and she decides that she will do her very best to accomplish everything she wants here. With that thought in mind, she falls asleep. Meanwhile, the rest of her family remains furious with Prince Elliot. The way he disregarded their precious Elise is something they consider absolutely unforgivable. They are determined to make him deeply regret what he has done. The next morning, Elise wakes up feeling incredibly refreshed. She thinks about how well she slept, especially after such a difficult day yesterday. Just then, she hears someone shouting. And that is right. It is the wild bird that Elise has been feeding, and apparently, this is part of its morning routine. Elise cannot help noticing that the bird itself is beautiful, but its voice is incredibly disappointing. She begins to wonder why the original Elise had been taking care of such a creature in the first place. Her eyes then shift toward the pillow on her bed. There is a hole in it. She wonders what could possibly have caused the hole in her pillow, but she cannot remember. She knows that she absolutely needs to hide it, otherwise Anis is going to be furious with her. It seems that she really does not remember a lot of things clearly. Her memories are still cloudy, and there are many details about Elise's life that she has yet to recover. Just then, Toli arrives and wishes her a good morning. He explains that their father has given him 2 leather bags filled with money for their shopping trip. Elise can apparently buy whatever she wants with it. This makes her wonder just how generous their father is. She immediately becomes excited at the thought of the shopping trip. It is going to be so much fun, and she decides that today is going to be a great day. Breakfast looks promising as well. However, when she sees what is actually being served, she is surprised. It consists of nothing more than hard-looking bread and sunny-side-up eggs. And, of course, everything has that familiar salt flavor. Her brother tells her that since she has said she wants to research plants, she should consider getting a local vegetation list along with the ordinary botanical encyclopedia if she wants more detailed information. Apparently, those are the kinds of books commonly used by shoppers and female adventurers. The suggestion immediately excites Elise. She thanks Toli, thinking that the local vegetation list is likely to become an excellent source of information. With that decided, they prepare to head to the royal capital. As they are getting ready to leave, Elise notices that her father and Caswell are also there. She greets the 2 of them and observes that they are going to the royal castle today. Her father confirms that they are. Apparently, the royal family has no intention of letting the matter rest after the insult directed at Elise. They intend to make sure the royal family does not simply get away with what happened. Hearing this, Elise cannot help but snicker. She is already looking forward to hearing how things turn out. Suddenly, her mother arrives as well. She approaches the 2 men and expresses her belief that they will do well. Elise cannot help but think that her mother looks incredibly intimidating. For a moment, she wonders whether her mother is angry. However, Elise soon realizes that she has misunderstood the situation. Her mother suddenly rushes toward her father, and the 2 of them embrace each other. Before Elise can even process what is happening, they begin kissing as well. Elise is left staring at them in disbelief, thinking that they are already showing their affection for each other first thing in the morning. Judging by her brother's reaction, however, this is apparently nothing unusual. It seems that her parents do this every morning. Elise cannot help but find the whole thing unbelievable. This is supposed to be a dating game world, yet this kind of scene definitely would not happen in her previous world. Her parents are openly affectionate with each other without the slightest concern for anyone watching them, and apparently, the family has long since become accustomed to it. Her father then makes it clear that they have no reason to obey the royal family. If anything, the royal family should be the ones feeling guilty about ruining the engagement. Because of that, Elise's family has the upper hand when it comes to the negotiation. Elise's mother agrees and expresses her confidence that everything will go well. There is, however, another reason she is accompanying them today. The royal family has apparently sent a messenger from the queen to their residence that very morning. The queen has specifically requested that Elise's mother be present as well. Elise knows that her mother and the queen are quite close. The 2 of them often meet for tea, so their relationship is not merely a formal one between members of 2 noble families. Because of this, Elise wonders whether the queen wants to speak with her mother personally about the broken engagement. Still, Elise is not particularly worried. She knows that her mother will take care of everything. Before leaving, Elise makes sure that she does not forget to say farewell to them. She wishes everyone a safe trip, while the others tell her to have fun as well. Elise assures them that she intends to enjoy herself. Toli then reminds Elise that they should also get going. Elise agrees, remembering that she still needs to purchase the botanical encyclopedia. At the same time, she is genuinely excited about visiting the royal capital and doing some shopping there. The whole thing feels remarkably similar to an event from a parallel world. Unfortunately, that excitement does not last very long. The moment Elise arrives in the royal capital, she is hit by an unpleasant reality. The royal capital stinks. Elise is genuinely baffled by it. She cannot understand why everything about this world seems to follow the typical style of a dating game, yet the smell is so painfully realistic. The unpleasant odors are far too vivid, making the royal capital feel less like the beautiful setting of a romantic fantasy and more like an actual city from the Middle Ages. The dirt, the smells, and the general state of the streets are far more realistic than she ever wanted them to be. Elise simply cannot stand it. As a result, she gets out of the royal capital as quickly as possible. While leaving, she cannot help but wonder whether the situation will be the same once she returns to their territory. If the royal capital itself has this many problems, she does not even want to imagine what she might find elsewhere. She tells herself not to assume that the same thing will happen in their territory, but the thought is still worrying. There seem to be piles of problems that need to be dealt with besides the dirt alone. Still, there is at least one good thing to come out of the trip. Elise manages to obtain the botanical encyclopedia she wanted. Looking through it, she becomes increasingly interested in the information it contains. From what she can tell, the climate of this world. The climate here is similar to the northern part of her previous world. However, there are also so many mysterious and unfamiliar plants growing in this world that Elise cannot help but become fascinated by them. Suddenly, her eyes settle on one particular plant. It is a sugar beet. Elise immediately recognizes it. These are raw materials for producing sugar. In fact, sugar beets mainly grow in their territory. She remembers that sugar is an extremely luxurious food in this world. As far as she knows, it is not even something that can normally be found in the market. Even families as wealthy and influential as hers cannot obtain it very often. But if she can produce sugar from sugar beets, then perhaps things can change. Maybe she can finally live a life where she can have whole apples as dessert. The thought makes Elise unexpectedly excited. Just then, Anis approaches her and informs her that it is time for her tea. She presents Elise with a very plain-looking cake, which immediately makes Elise wonder whether this is not exactly the kind of dessert she has been looking for. Sugar should not be this easy to obtain. At least, that is what Elise has been assuming. Still, the cake looks good enough, so she decides to take a bite. The moment she tastes it, Elise realizes that it is incredibly sweet. The flavor is made up of honey, dried fruit, and egg yolks. It is not bad at all. In fact, it is quite delicious. However, Elise would describe it as more of a sweet bread than an actual cake. If she can produce proper sugar, she could make something like this much tastier. Elise then asks Anis where she got it from. Anis reminds her that Elise once mentioned wanting something like this, so she had asked the cook to make it for her. Apparently, the cook had called it a cake, and everyone seems to think that it is really tasty. This makes Elise pause. She suddenly wonders whether she has been too careless about talking freely about food that technically should not exist in this world. Even her brother agrees that the dessert is sweet and tasty. However, he is also confused. He has never seen anything like this before, and he does not even know what a cake is supposed to be. More importantly, he wants to know how Elise learned about it. He continues leaning toward her, practically begging her to reveal her secret. Elise knows exactly where this kind of situation usually goes. The reincarnated characters in the light novels she has read before often pretend to be saints, become extraordinarily clever adventurers, or use the knowledge from their previous lives to cheat their way through their new worlds. But Elise cannot be bothered with any of that. She would much rather enjoy a happy and easy life in this parallel world. That is why constantly having to come up with an excuse or invent a new story every time someone asks about what she is hiding sounds incredibly troublesome. Instead, she decides that it would be better to simply confess everything to her family. If she explains the situation honestly, she can get their approval for what she is planning to do. After that, she can take her chances. With her decision made, Elise asks everyone to sit down. She tells them that she would like to explain everything once everyone is home and gathered together. And so, when the time comes, Elise begins by explaining that the dessert is sweet and that she calls it a cake, something she has invented. She tells everyone that it is nice and sweet and encourages them to try it if they do not mind. Her mother is the first one to agree. The moment she takes a bite, however, she falls into literal shock. She continues eating the cake without hesitation, completely captivated by its flavor. Before long, she has eaten the entire thing. Her mother declares that it is absolutely delicious. She has never tasted a dessert of such high quality, not even in the Empire. She cannot believe that something made with nothing more than honey, dried fruits, and egg yolks can create such a wonderful taste. To her, the dessert is remarkably similar to the kind of sweets made with sugar. Elise immediately catches onto that statement. She asks whether they have sugar in the Empire. Her mother confirms that they do. Sugar is luxurious even in the Empire. Only a small number of aristocrats even know that it exists. This revelation catches Elise's attention. Her mother then turns the question back toward her, wondering how Elise could possibly have learned about sugar in the first place. Elise knows that it will be impossible to continue hiding the truth about her background forever. She has already prepared herself for whatever reaction may come, and now she decides that it is finally time to tell her family everything. She gathers everyone together and explains that she knows her situation sounds surprising and perhaps even difficult to believe, but there is something she needs to confess. Her mother immediately understands the seriousness of the matter and orders every servant to leave the room so that the family can be alone. Once they are completely private, Elise reveals that she possesses memories of having lived in another world. In that world, sugar is not an expensive luxury but something cheap and incredibly easy to obtain. She explains that the various things made with sugar in that world are called cakes. As she confesses this, Elise cannot help but wonder whether her family is beginning to think that she has completely lost her mind. However, instead of reacting with disbelief, her mother suddenly tells her that she has something she has wanted to discuss with her for a long time. Her mother recalls an incident from when Elise is very young. At one point, she and her husband are discussing the best method of transporting seafood from the port to the royal capital. They are concerned because the journey takes a considerable amount of time, and the seafood could easily spoil before it reaches its destination. During that discussion, little Elise suddenly appears and suggests that they place the fish inside an icebox, wrap it with sawdust, and then put everything inside a wooden box. According to her, that method should keep the seafood preserved during transportation. Her mother remembers being completely confused by one particular word in Elise's suggestion, sawdust. When she asks what it is, Elise innocently explains that it is the material produced after cutting wood. At the time, her parents are uncertain about whether such an absurd-sounding idea could actually work. Nevertheless, they decide to try Elise's suggestion. To their surprise, the method works exactly as she predicts, and the seafood arrives in good condition. Her mother then recalls that this is not the only strange incident. There are other occasions when young Elise says or does things that seem completely incomprehensible to everyone around her. She possesses knowledge that she should have no possible way of knowing. Hearing this, Elise herself begins to question whether those events truly happened. She realizes that even before she completely remembers her previous life, she has apparently been using fragments of knowledge and experience from that former world without consciously understanding where they came from. Her mother has spent years wondering why Elise sometimes possesses such unusual knowledge. Now, after hearing her confession, everything finally makes sense. Elise has been carrying knowledge that does not belong to this world. Somehow, the experiences and knowledge from another life have remained within her even before she fully recovered her memories. Her family can only imagine how difficult and confusing that must have been for her. They realize that they should have tried harder to understand little Elise instead of simply accepting her strange behavior without question. Rather than being frightened by her confession, they admire her for finally finding the courage to tell them the truth. More than anything, they are relieved that Elise has trusted them enough to reveal something so important. They are also sincerely grateful, from the bottom of their hearts, that she did not end up marrying that idiotic prince. Instead of rejecting her or questioning her sanity, her family makes it clear that they believe her. The acceptance overwhelms Elise, and tears immediately begin to gather in her eyes. She never expects that the people closest to her would accept such an unbelievable confession so readily. Her mother even remarks that if they had known about Elise's unusual knowledge earlier, they could have asked her for even more suggestions and made use of her ideas. The thought leaves Elise stunned. She cannot help thinking about how strange the situation is. Her family is supposed to be a hard-working and somewhat financially struggling noble family, yet they are all willing to believe her after she suddenly reveals that she has memories and knowledge from another world. Still, Elise reminds herself that it has not actually been very long since she completely regained her memories. Even now, there are still some vague fragments that she cannot clearly recall. Nevertheless, She is certain that the knowledge she possesses can become incredibly useful in developing their territory. Her family agrees with her, but they also make it clear that this secret must remain within the family. They understand that revealing such knowledge to outsiders could create serious problems. Elise agrees with them immediately. She realizes that there are always people who could become greedy or insolent enough to misuse her knowledge for their own benefit. If the existence of her memories became known, someone might attempt to exploit her or force her to reveal everything she knows. This time, however, her family assures her that they will do everything they can to protect her. Elise sincerely thanks them. For the first time since arriving in this world, she feels completely free. At first, she is disappointed by the circumstances surrounding her reincarnation. Becoming the wealthy villainess of the story does not exactly sound like the ideal fate she once imagined for herself. Yet now she realizes that she has actually ended up in the best possible environment. She has a powerful and supportive family. They believe her. They are willing to protect her. She no longer has to hide her previous memories from the people closest to her. And, perhaps most importantly, she is free to do whatever she wants with the knowledge she possesses. Now that she knows there are edible wild plants growing throughout the territory and that she can finally share her ideas openly with her family, Elise feels an entirely new sense of excitement. Her first priority is obvious. She decides that it is time to make some serious food. Just as Elise is beginning to imagine all the delicious things she can create, her brother brings up another matter. He tells her about the outcome of the negotiations that took place at the royal castle. The negotiations have reached an agreement. The official procedures for canceling Elise's engagement are going to be completed. As part of the agreement, the amount of the dowry will be reduced back to its original value. In addition, another person will eventually take over the position of Minister of Foreign Affairs. Apparently, however, Prince Idiot still has something he wants to tell Elise. Because of this, she will have to accompany her family to the royal castle tomorrow. Until just moments ago, Elise has actually been looking forward to tomorrow. Now she realizes that the reason for the visit is that idiot prince. Her mood changes immediately. On one hand, she would rather not waste another moment thinking about him. On the other hand, after everything he has said to her and the insults he has thrown at her, Elise finds herself wanting to completely crush him. She wants him to understand exactly how badly he has misjudged her. Her mother also informs her that she will accompany Elise to the castle, since the queen has specifically requested her presence. With that, Elise realizes that all the major players are gathering together once again. The royal family, the queen, her own family, and that arrogant prince are all about to meet again. Elise is no longer the same girl who enters the royal castle feeling uncertain and helpless. She has finally revealed her secret to the people who matter most, and instead of losing everything, she has gained their complete support. Now she is prepared. Tomorrow, she will return to the royal castle. And this time, she has no intention of allowing that loser to look down on her. Alright, the entire cast is coming together. Now it is time to make that idiot prince surrender completely. Elise is already prepared to make sure that loser understands exactly who he has chosen to oppose. It is a beautiful morning, and today is finally the day Elise is going to the royal castle. She has no idea what is going to happen there, but she is prepared for anything. After everything that has happened, she no longer feels as helpless or uncertain as she once did. Whatever awaits her at the castle, she is ready to face it. The moment Elise wakes up, however, she notices something strange. There is another hole in her pillow. Just then, her maid enters the room and cheerfully wishes her a good morning. But the moment she notices the hole in Elise's pillow, her expression changes completely. She immediately remembers that she has warned Elise countless times not to make holes in her pillows. How many times is she going to have to tell her this? Elise stares at the damaged pillow, completely confused. Was she really the one who made that hole? For some reason, she feels as though she is forgetting something extremely important. There is something about herself that she still cannot remember, but she has no idea what it could possibly be. Then, suddenly, a flash of memory crosses her mind. She remembers that, in all those situations, she has always been extraordinarily talented at almost everything she does. Cooking, farming, medicine, practical knowledge, and countless other things come naturally to her. But now another possibility occurs to her. Could it be that she was also a combatant? Could she have been much more physically capable than she realizes? Elise begins wondering whether there is an entire part of her previous abilities that she has somehow forgotten. Before she can think about it any further, her maid urges her to hurry and change her clothes. They need to leave soon because they have to head to the royal castle. Elise gets ready while thinking about Prince Igor. If that idiot says something rude to her again, she feels that she might actually be able to smash him into the ground. The thought suddenly sounds surprisingly appealing. What a great idea. The scene then shifts to the royal castle. The king is speaking with Elise and apologizing for bothering her. He explains that they genuinely need her help with an unpleasant matter. Apparently, the prince has been complaining about something so absurd that Elise cannot even understand what he is talking about. Before she can properly make sense of the situation, Prince Igor appears. Despite the fact that their marriage has already been called off, he is apparently still upset. He insists that although he understands that Elise is unhappy about the broken engagement, he cannot believe that she has gone so far as to do something like this. He then reveals that he already knows Elise struck his beloved. Marianne immediately supports his accusation. She claims that Elise hit her with her full strength and that some of her bones could have been broken. She describes the incident as terrifying, making it sound as though she has barely survived the encounter. Prince Igor immediately embraces Marianne, treating her like some poor, fragile victim and comforting his beloved. The queen, however, considers the situation more carefully. Knowing the full extent of Elise's strength, she believes that if Elise had actually struck Marianne with all her might, Marianne could have suffered far more serious injuries. Elise calmly points out that she has never even communicated with Marianne using words, making the accusation even more questionable. She then proposes something. If everyone wants to know what Marianne would have looked like had Elise actually struck her with all her strength, Elise is willing to demonstrate it. She asks them to allow her to show exactly what Marianne's condition would have been if she had truly attacked her with everything she possessed. If she successfully proves her innocence, however, Elise has one favor to ask of the royal family. She wants them to approve Prince Igor's engagement to Marianne. Elise knows exactly what she is doing, but if Marianne wants to treat her this way, then Elise intends to use the situation to secure her own freedom completely. She also knows that she cannot imagine Marianne becoming a queen in any world. Still, this is what their son wants. Therefore, Elise asks the royal family to make his wish come true and allow him to marry Marianne. Even the Marquis steps forward and asks the royal family to grant Elise's request on his daughter's behalf. The queen, surprisingly, agrees with them. She even proposes that the wedding ceremony be held 1 month from now. 1 month should be more than enough time for everyone to make the necessary preparation. Furthermore, the families can still return to the royal capital and celebrate the wedding before heading back to their territory. The queen considers the arrangement perfect and warmly asks Elise's mother to come and celebrate the occasion with them as well. Elise watches the situation unfold and suddenly realizes something astonishing. Her mother had been furious because she was insulted when the engagement was broken off. The queen, meanwhile, had been furious because the royal family was losing the national benefits they had expected from the marriage. Yet somehow, those two women have discovered a mutual goal. They have apparently made up and joined forces. And Elise now realizes that they must have planned all of this yesterday. Her mother and the queen. Those two women are absolutely horrifying. They have apparently reached an agreement and are now working together with frightening efficiency. Even the king and Elise's father appear completely overwhelmed by what is happening. The two men are practically shaking like leaves as they watch their wives take control of the entire situation. Elise can only stare at them. At this point, she is beginning to understand something very important. The men may technically be the heads of their respective families and kingdoms, but when these two women decide on something together, there is absolutely nothing the men can do to stop them. The king finally declares that the wedding will take place in 1 month, and then asks the two of them whether they are happy with the decision. Both the prince and his foolish lover happily confirm that they are. Seeing their expressions, Elise cannot help but think that they truly are such a pure couple. They look so genuinely happy together. They have absolutely no idea what is happening behind their backs, and Elise almost feels sorry for them. Marianne then approaches Elise with an air of confidence, reminding her that she is the heroine whom the prince and everyone else loves, while Elise's role is already over. She even calls Elise a mean villain. Elise cannot help but think that Marianne has some nerve. All Elise wants is freedom. She has no desire whatsoever to receive love from this stupid prince, and she certainly does not want to remain trapped in the role of the so-called mean villain. Elise begins to suspect that Marianne is also someone who has been reincarnated. That would explain everything. It makes perfect sense if Marianne is trying to develop the story according to the original script and deliberately cast Elise as the villain. It is such a typical move for someone who knows the story. Nevertheless, Elise has no intention of allowing that to happen. She turns toward the king and announces that she would like to begin proving her innocence. The queen explains that everything has already been prepared. At that moment, a guard approaches Elise and informs her that she will now punch and kick a soldier. Apparently, this is the easiest way to determine the truth. However, she is specifically warned not to use her full strength. The king and queen do not need to witness a bloody scene. Elise thinks that this is perfectly reasonable. She can simply avoid hurting the soldier too badly. She then instructs the minister to move a letter to the side and asks him to kneel down and hold the shield properly. Elise is being careful because she does not want to accidentally hurt the king, the queen, or anyone else standing nearby. Once everything is ready, Elise prepares herself. She delivers a strong punch directly into the shield. Women tend to hit with less force because they generally have lighter body weight, and Elise has been taught that she should never simply rely on brute strength. Instead, speed, precision, and striking the core parts of the body are far more important. With that in mind, Elise decides to demonstrate just how much difference technique can make. To double the power behind her attack, she jumps into the air and strikes the shield with her leg. Everyone watching is horrified. The impact is far more powerful than anyone expects, and the people around her stare at Elise in complete disbelief. Elise then turns her attention toward Marianne and politely asks her to explain exactly when Elise supposedly punched or kicked her with her full strength. Marianne immediately drops to her knees. She begins apologizing desperately and admits that Elise has never struck her at all. She begs Elise to forgive her. Elise watches the heroine crying so hard and cannot help wondering whether she truly does not look like a real villain at all. Even the queen is satisfied by what has happened. She declares that everything has been cleared up and then turns her attention toward the prince. She orders him to stay away from Elise from now on. The queen makes certain that the prince understands the order and asks whether he has heard her properly. Having no other choice, the prince reluctantly accepts. The queen then happily turns her attention toward the upcoming engagement ceremony, remarking on how exciting it will be when it takes place in 1 month. She also announces that the daughter of the baron is permitted to stay in the detached villa at the back of the inner palace. The location is easy to secure completely, and no men will be allowed to enter the area, including Elisa's own family. Apparently, the place is so secure that not even an assassin would be able to break into it. In other words, Elise realizes that it is essentially a confinement. And it is absolutely horrifying. Everyone present is horrified by the arrangement. Elise, however, cannot help thinking that ignorance truly is bliss for the two of them. The prince and Marianne are so caught up in their own happiness that they do not seem to understand what is actually happening around them. Elise then turns toward Marianne and congratulates her. She tells Marianne that it is good for her because she truly is the future queen now. The royal family is going to take the best possible care of her, and she has already recovered. After that, Elise calmly asks Marianne to begin the procedure for calling off her engagement with the prince. The king immediately confirms that this is the correct course of action. Elise does not hesitate. She signs all the necessary documents immediately. She even warns the prince that he should sign them quickly as well. The king then expresses his gratitude toward Elise and thanks her for everything she has done up until this point. Elise accepts his words and then politely excuses herself from everyone present. Before leaving, she turns toward Marianne once more and tells her to enjoy her heroine life. Elise is finally free. She can go anywhere she wants. Her happy-go-lucky life has finally begun. For the first time, Elise allows herself to wonder what she should do now and what she ought to do first. There is only one thing that immediately comes to mind. She should definitely have a food party. After successfully ending the broken engagement, Elise finally has the opportunity to breathe freely. It is now time for her to take a refreshing walk through the yard, and as she strolls through the grounds of the Marquis' property, she cannot help but admire how beautiful everything is. The yard is magnificent, almost perfectly suited to the grandeur of the Marquis' estate. For the first time in a long while, Elise feels considerably better. The overwhelming stress caused by dealing with Prince Elliot and his ridiculous lover has finally been lifted from her shoulders. She no longer has to endure the constant frustration and pressure that came with the engagement. With every step she takes through the peaceful yard, she feels as though her mind is becoming lighter. Then, something catches her attention. She stops when she notices a pumpkin growing in the field. Elise stares at it in disbelief, wondering whether what she is seeing is actually real. Is this truly a vegetable field? As she looks around more carefully, she discovers that there are plenty of herbs growing throughout the area as well. The sight is so wonderful to her that she feels as though she has stumbled into the Garden of Eden itself. Of course, she knows that this is merely an ordinary vegetable field. There is nothing particularly extraordinary about it. Yet something deep inside her tells her that she absolutely has to start growing food. There are already enough ingredients here to make quite a variety of dishes. The thought immediately makes Elise remember all the meals she has eaten in this world so far. Nearly every meal has consisted of bland, uninspiring food, and the realization makes her wonder just how boring the diet of this world truly is. She cannot accept it any longer. She has to start a revolution. Just as Elise is thinking about all the possibilities, someone suddenly approaches and asks who she is. Elise turns around and sees the gardener, Tom. At first, she wonders if it really is him, but Tom immediately recognizes her. He remarks that it has been a long time since he has seen her, and Elise then realizes that he is indeed the same gardener she remembers. Her attention returns to the vegetable field, and she wonders whether Tom is the one who started it. Tom explains that she herself was the one who had insisted on having this vegetable field planted. In fact, when she was younger, Elise had cried and repeatedly demanded that a vegetable field be created. At first, Elise cannot remember any of this. Then, little by little, the memories begin to return. She remembers that when she was young, she had desperately wanted a vegetable field at the new palace in the royal capital, just like the one they already had here. She had apparently been so determined about it that she had even declared that she would refuse to move to the royal capital unless a vegetable field was created there as well. Elise cannot help but feel somewhat amazed by her younger self. Still, there is something much more important occupying her thoughts now. She looks at the potatoes growing in the field and immediately decides that she wants to eat them. She asks Tom to pick some up for her. Tom immediately refuses. Elise is confused by his reaction and wonders how he can possibly refuse such a simple request. Tom explains that potatoes are poisonous. He reminds her that he had already told her this when she was little and had warned her never to eat them. That makes Elise suddenly understand what must have happened. Apparently, when she was younger, she had asked Tom to grow potatoes, but she had never actually mentioned that raw potatoes are edible under the proper circumstances. Elise therefore explains that potatoes can, in fact, be eaten as long as one is careful. The green potatoes, as well as the portions that have been exposed to sunlight and have changed color, are poisonous. However, the potatoes that remain underground and show no such discoloration are perfectly suitable for eating. With that explanation, Elise earnestly asks Tom to dig some up for her. Tom still hesitates. He does not immediately begin digging. Instead, he looks at Elise with concern and asks whether she is genuinely certain that what she is saying is correct. Elise assures him that she is completely certain. She even begins wondering whether they should go to the chef immediately and have the potatoes prepared and tasted. The thought of eating them makes her imagination run wild. She starts thinking about how wonderful these Irish copper potatoes must be. In her mind, they would be absolutely delicious served with some butter. Unfortunately, there is no butter in this world. Elise immediately encounters another problem. She considers whether she could stew the potatoes together with the other vegetables available in the garden, but then another realization strikes her. There is no soy sauce. There are barely any proper seasonings available in this world either. Elise begins wondering whether she could simply make her own seasonings. If she cannot even properly season the food, however, she feels as though there is little left for her to do except cry. Still, she refuses to give up. She begins thinking about what else she might be able to cook easily with the ingredients available to her. Then another possibility occurs to her. Perhaps she can obtain some oil. With that thought in mind, Elise heads toward the kitchen to find the chef. When she arrives, the chef immediately wonders what has brought her there. Elise explains that she has a favor to ask. She wants the chef to cook the potatoes for her. The chef's reaction is immediate and extreme. He begins shouting in disbelief, asking whether Elise has completely lost her mind. As far as he is concerned, those potatoes are poisonous. He knows that Prince Elliot has abandoned her and that she has been deeply hurt by everything that happened. However, he cannot believe that she has become so distressed that she is now willing to throw away her own life. Elise attempts to explain the situation and clarify that the potatoes she has selected are not poisonous, provided they have remained underground and have not turned green. The chef refuses to accept her explanation. He insists that the potatoes are simply not edible. After all, he is a chef. Throughout all his years of cooking, he has never once touched those potatoes, let alone attempted to prepare them as food. From his perspective, There is no possible way that Elise can suddenly claim that they are edible when every piece of knowledge he possesses tells him otherwise. He cannot understand how she could possibly believe that she can cook something that he, as a professional chef, has always considered poisonous. Elise stands there, realizing that convincing him is going to be much more difficult than she originally expected. Elise explains that she will tell the chef the recipe, and all he needs to do is follow her instructions carefully. The first thing they need is some oil, so she asks whether he knows where they can obtain some. The chef thinks for a moment before remembering that he has some leftover lower back fat that he was planning to throw away. Elise immediately becomes excited. She tells him to place the back fat into a heated pan and let it melt so that the oil can be rendered from it. Once enough oil has been extracted, he can simply throw the potatoes into the pan and fry them. The chef follows her instructions. As the potatoes begin frying, an incredible aroma spreads through the kitchen. The chef cannot hide his reaction. Even the smell alone is enough to make his mouth water, leaving everyone wondering what on earth they are creating. The potatoes continue cooking until they become beautifully golden brown. Once they reach the right color, Elise tells the chef to sprinkle some salt over them, and just like that, the French fries are finished. The chef stares at the finished dish, clearly amazed by how good it smells. The aroma alone is enough to make him hungry. Elise tells everyone that they should dig in. She picks up one of the fries and takes a bite. The moment she tastes it, she realizes that it is absolutely delicious. Tom and the chef also begin eating. As soon as both of them take their first bites, however, they are completely taken aback. Neither of them can believe what they are tasting. The chef is so overwhelmed that he eventually drops down onto his knees. He cannot believe that he has spent all this time calling himself a chef without ever knowing that such an incredible food even existed. Elise tells him not to be disappointed with himself. She also did not know about it until she discovered it in a book. Of course, that is a complete lie. Elise actually knows about French fries because of the knowledge she possesses from her previous life, but there is no way she can reveal that truth. Instead, she continues with her explanation and tells the chef that she would like him to prepare other dishes she has researched as well. She wants him to make dishes similar to these potatoes, as well as the cake they prepared the other day. She wonders how that sounds to him. The chef is more than willing to accept. With that, Elise and the chef effectively form a contract. The chef assures her that she can count on him from now on. Tom also eagerly joins their little operation. He makes it clear that he is on Elise's side as well and tells her that she can let him know whenever there is anything she needs. Just like that, the three of them become a team. The food team. Tom continues eating the French fries while praising them. He believes that this is truly incredible food and that everyone will love it. Then he realizes something even more important. The people in this territory are not accustomed to eating potatoes at all. That means the potatoes growing throughout their land have been left untouched. If they harvest them properly, they could obtain an enormous quantity. Elise immediately begins thinking beyond simply satisfying her appetite. She wonders whether this could become an excellent business opportunity. If they begin producing potatoes throughout their territory and sell them together with recipes explaining how to prepare them, they could potentially create an entirely new industry. The possibilities immediately begin multiplying in her mind. Elise therefore asks the chef whether he can prepare these potatoes for everyone. The chef responds confidently that he can. Elise knows exactly what she has to do next. She should present this idea at the next family conference. Before she can get much further into her thoughts, however, her father suddenly appears. He has clearly been attracted by the incredible smell coming from the kitchen. He wonders what on earth smells so good that it is making his mouth water. Elise looks at her father and cannot help thinking that he does not look anything like the sort of character she would expect to see in a dating game. She explains that the smell comes from a new dish made using potatoes. Her father and the others struggle to understand what she is talking about. They cannot comprehend how something they have always considered poisonous could possibly have become the source of such an incredible aroma. Elise then notices that her brothers are also there. Looking at the handsome faces of all these noble men while their stomachs are practically rumbling with hunger, Elise finds the entire scene strangely amusing. She tells everyone that her chef is now preparing the new potato dish for the entire family, so they might as well all head to the dining room. Everyone follows her. When Elise reaches the dining room, she notices that her mother is already there. Her mother is sitting quietly, almost as though she is staring into the void. Elise tries to call out to her. Her mother immediately reacts to the smell and wonders what it is. Elise explains that it is a new dish called French fries and that it is made from potatoes. she also assures her mother that she should trust her because all the poisonous parts have been carefully removed. Her mother's response is immediate. She tells Elise that she trusts her. Finally, the potatoes are brought out and presented on the dining table. Everyone takes a piece. The moment they taste the French fries, the entire family is overwhelmed. They feel as though they have suddenly entered heaven. The delicious taste is completely different from anything they have experienced before. Everyone keeps eating. They continue drinking and enjoying the food, unable to stop themselves. Elise's family absolutely loves the French fries, so she helps herself to some more as well. Once everyone has had enough time to enjoy the dish, they begin discussing whether it is possible to maintain a stable supply of potatoes. Elise explains that the climate of her previous world was similar to the climate here, and potato fields had once been spread far and wide. Because of that, she believes that mass production should be possible in this world as well. There are also many different ways to prepare potatoes. They can be fried, boiled, stewed, baked, and incorporated into countless other dishes. They can also be added easily to all kinds of meals, making them an incredibly versatile ingredient. The only thing they need to be careful about is properly removing the poisonous portions of the potato. One of Elise's brothers realizes just how significant this could be. If potatoes become popular throughout their territory, then producing them in large quantities could mean that fewer people have to go hungry. The idea amazes everyone. They agree that it would be truly wonderful. Elise herself never intended for things to go this far. At first, she simply wanted to eat something delicious. Yet now, she realizes that the knowledge from her previous life might allow her to help other people as well. She is not interested in becoming an adventurer. She does not want to become some sort of saint either. She simply likes helping people. If the knowledge she already possesses can improve people's lives, then she sees no reason not to use it. With that thought, Elise decides that they should make potatoes a specialty of their territory. Later that night, Elise feels incredibly full. After eating so much, she decides that she needs to work off some of the food. She remembers that she has been training extensively ever since she was little. As a result, exercises such as sit-ups are surprisingly easy for her. She completes 300 sit-ups without much trouble. Once she finishes, she heads outside and reflects that it has been a pretty good workout. Still, Elise cannot help but realize that her body is unbelievably well trained. Apparently, the previous Elise has kept her muscles incredibly strong through years of exercise. She must have followed an intense training routine for quite some time. Elise begins wondering whether she can remember what Elise's daily exercise routine actually consisted of. The moment she wonders about it, another memory suddenly flashes to her mind. She sees herself carrying out a brutal and exhausting series of exercises. The training is far more intense than she expected. Elise cannot help wondering what on earth this kind of discipline is. She is beginning to understand that the previous Elise was not merely physically fit. She was practically training herself like a soldier. Still thinking about it, Elise eventually walks out onto her balcony. She looks down from above. That is when she notices several men gathered below. They are wearing long clothes, and their presence immediately catches her attention. Elise wonders what is happening. For a moment, she thinks that perhaps there is some kind of wrestling meeting taking place again. But then she notices something strange. Every single one of the men is looking directly at her. Elise becomes increasingly suspicious. She stares down at them, wondering why they have all gathered there and why they are watching her so closely. Then an unsettling thought occurs to her. Please do not tell her that this is somehow related to little Elise again. The scene cuts to a parlor setting, where baby Elise is being told that she should use her talent to train the knights who are assigned to guard her. She realizes that they are referring to the guards responsible for protecting her, and the others confirm that this is exactly what they mean. They explain that training the guards in this manner will prove extremely helpful to them in the future. With that, the scene reveals that all of the knights are now gathered before Elise, practically lying in front of her as they express their gratitude for the training she has given them. Elise recalls what little she remembers and realizes just how powerful the Marquis' private military force actually is. Compared with the formal military, the Marquis' private troops are enormously powerful. Among them, Elise's personal guards, whom she trains with every single day, are particularly impressive. They are extraordinarily strong, not only physically but also mentally, and even the main infantry holds these guards in considerable respect. Then there is the matter of the long clothes everyone is wearing. Elise knows exactly why they have them. Of course, she is responsible for it. She simply could not accept the ridiculous medieval-style pumpkin underwear that everyone had been wearing. Because of that, She suggests replacing them with long clothes instead. Fortunately, everyone accepts her suggestion. The clothes are much easier to wash, far more hygienic, and generally much more practical. Now, seeing everyone around her wearing them, Elise feels quite pleased with herself. She considers it a great improvement. One of the guards approaches Elise and asks what kind of training she is planning for them that day. Elise is left wondering internally what she is supposed to make them do. Before she can decide, one of the guards brings out a large punching bag and presents it to her, almost as though asking whether this is really acceptable for her to use. Elise immediately approaches the punching bag. She gathers her strength and strikes it. She bangs against it with all the power she can muster, repeatedly hitting it as hard as possible. Yet, despite putting her entire strength behind the attack, the enormous punching bag barely moves. Elise realizes that this is actually quite impressive. The guards, meanwhile, praise her strength and become eager to participate in the training themselves. They all decide that they should join her and begin working alongside her. As everyone trains together, Elise looks around and quietly acknowledges that the situation is not bad at all. Then, as though she is a princess being given the finest treatment imaginable, one of the guards brings out a royal seat for Elise and invites her to sit down. Another guard immediately provides her with a refreshing drink, making sure that she is properly taken care of while everyone else continues their training. Elise happily drinks it and immediately feels refreshed. She begins thinking that if she can live like this every day, then perhaps she can enjoy all kinds of delicious food and eat as much as she wants. With this much energy being supplied to her every day, she feels that this must be some kind of stored strength that will allow her to keep going. Curious about the drink, Elise asks what it is made from. The guards explain that it is something she herself taught them to make. They make it by boiling sugar beets, diluting the resulting mixture with water, and then adding a small amount of salt. The combination creates a sweet and refreshing drink that replenishes her energy. Elise is stunned. She has finally found a source of sugar. The discovery immediately makes her wonder whether the estate actually has sugar beets growing in its gardens. If they do, then she knows she absolutely needs to ask about them later. The guards then provide Elise with her whipping tool. She looks at it and wonders whether she is really supposed to take it without even thinking about what it means. She begins questioning whether this is genuinely meant to be used for discipline. But then she stops herself. Wait, she can understand training the guards. That part makes sense. However, this entire situation is still far from normal. After all, this is the Marquis's household. The methods being used here are certainly not ordinary. Elise once again looks at the whipping tool and wonders exactly what kind of discipline this is supposed to represent. Unfortunately, she has no choice. Whatever the situation is, she decides that she simply has to become Elise and allow herself to operate on autopilot. At this point, she completely slips into the role of a full-blown mistress. Elise calls the knights dogs and demands to know what they are doing just standing there instead of continuing their training. Rather than becoming offended, however, the knights are delighted. They seem to take her harsh attitude as proof that she is taking her responsibilities seriously. Elise then begins whipping them as part of their discipline. The knights accept it enthusiastically, thanking her as she continues. They even express their gratitude for the lesson, treating the entire experience as though Elise has given them some incredibly valuable form of training. Meanwhile, Elise is mentally exhausted. Her body may still be moving, but her mind is completely worn out from trying to understand what is happening around her. Later, Elise is told by her mother that she must maintain a firm attitude toward the knights. As the leader, she needs to establish authority and create a strong sense of unity among the guards. Her mother believes that Elise must be decisive and commanding if she wants the knights to follow her properly. Unfortunately, Elise appears to have misunderstood exactly what having a firm attitude means. She looks back at everything that has happened and begins wondering what could possibly have caused this situation. Has she somehow turned into a mean wilderness girl? Has she really become the kind of person who casually orders around a group of powerful knights and whips them as part of their training? The thought leaves Elise somewhat bewildered. And yet, despite all of her confusion, a small part of her cannot deny that she feels a sense of accomplishment. The knights are stronger. They are motivated. They respect her. And somehow, through all of this bizarre training, Elise has actually managed to accomplish something. Even if she still has absolutely no idea what kind of discipline she has just created. Elise then goes to Tom and asks whether he is growing sugar beets in their field. Tom confirms that he is and tells her that she can find them growing in the backyard. Elise's dream continues. As she explores the field, she suddenly notices something else. Cherry. Her eyes immediately light up when she sees it. She realizes that these must be cherries and thinks that they are surely going to be delicious. She also notices that there are several other varieties growing nearby. Elise has never seen anything like these in her previous life, yet they all look remarkably similar to different kinds of fruit. She begins wondering whether they have proper names. Then she remembers something. Right, she has an encyclopedia. Elise has brought her encyclopedia with her because she had already planned on coming to the field after finishing her training. Now that she has discovered all these strange plants, she can use it to identify them properly. She begins carefully analyzing each of the fruits. After examining them one by one, Elise concludes that they appear to be edible. If they are edible, then she should obviously try them. So why not pick some? With that thought, Elise gathers several of the strange fruits and takes them with her. The scene then cuts to the kitchen, where the chef notices Elise arriving. It seems that he assumes she has once again come to tell him about another cold dish. However, Elise explains that she has brought something for them to try together and that they should begin with these fruits first. Since they look like fruits, Elise decides that the simplest way to start is by squeezing them. She takes one and begins pressing it, trying to figure out what exactly is hidden inside. Then she notices the smell. She knows that smell from somewhere. The moment Elise takes a bite and tastes it, her eyes widen. She immediately recognizes the flavor. This is soy sauce. There is no mistaking it. She knows this taste. It tastes like home. For a moment, Elise is overwhelmed by the realization that she has somehow encountered the familiar flavor of her previous life in this parallel world. It feels almost unbelievable. Seasoning growing directly on trees. What could possibly be more convenient than that? Elise does not care how strange the circumstances are, however. As long as she can enjoy soy sauce again, she is perfectly satisfied. The chef tastes it as well and notices that it has a salty flavor, yet it is clearly not ordinary salt. Elise explains that unlike salt, this seasoning does far more than simply add saltiness. It enhances the overall flavor of a dish and makes the food taste much richer. She identifies it as soy sauce. The chef becomes intrigued by the idea. He wonders whether this means that adding this seasoning can actually give an ordinary dish a completely different flavor. Elise confirms that this is exactly what it can do. Tom immediately becomes excited by the discovery. He says that he cannot wait to try it for himself and believes that everyone is going to be amazed once they see what it can do. Hearing his excitement makes Elise remember her previous life. Back then, she would cook and eat all by herself. There had been no one around her to become excited about the food she made. She had simply prepared her meals alone and eaten them alone. But now things are different. Elise looks at Tom and sees how genuinely excited he is, already wondering what they will be able to create this time. Even the chef becomes enthusiastic and suggests that they should immediately make something with their new discoveries. Seeing both of them so excited makes Elise smile. She agrees. Before they begin cooking, however, Elise decides that they should first examine the other fruits they have gathered. One of the strange fruits is opened, revealing a paste hidden inside its seed. Someone points this out to Elise. The moment she sees the paste, she immediately becomes excited and tells them to show it to her properly because she can already guess what it is from its appearance. It is miso paste. Elise explains that they can make soup simply by adding hot water to it. They can also spread or add it to grains such as rice before pan-frying them, or use it as an ingredient for stir-fried dishes. The others are impressed by the number of possibilities. They then ask Elise about the other differently colored seeds. Elise begins examining them as well. When she sees the lighter colored variety, she realizes that it is also related to soy, although it is made with wheat. Its appearance reminds her of a lychee. She begins connecting the names and appearances together. If the soy tree produces soy sauce, then this particular tree must be the one producing lychee-like ingredients. That leaves one more tree. Based on the naming pattern of the other two, Elise concludes that the remaining one must be the STO tree. The fruit from this tree has remarkably hard skin. However, Elise learns that there is apparently a considerable amount of juice inside it. Curious about what is hidden beneath the tough exterior, Elise asks the chef to cut one of them in half. The chef takes the fruit and carefully cuts it open. Elise immediately takes a sip of the liquid inside. The moment she tastes it, she recognizes the flavor. This is soup stock. She can hardly believe how convenient this discovery is becoming. The brown-colored variety turns out to be beef stock. The beige-colored one is chicken stock. The white-colored variety is pork stock. Elise begins chuckling at the absurd convenience of it all. Not only does this world have strange fruits that produce familiar seasonings, but it even seems to have entire varieties of stock growing from trees. She looks at the ingredients gathered around her and suggests that they should finally make some actual dishes with all of them. With that, the food experiment truly begins. The food adventure has only just started. Throughout human history, Elise wonders what could possibly be more sinful than this. Once a person tastes it, they lose themselves in its flavor and awaken to a frenzied obsession that closely resembles love, with all its enticement and seduction. That irresistible creation is none other than ramen noodles. All of her family members look at the dish with obvious suspicion as she encourages everyone to try it. Her father stares at the thin noodles in confusion, wondering what in the world they are. Elise has instructed the chef to prepare hand-kneaded, pasta-like noodles, while the dark broth is carefully made from soy sauce and rich chicken stock. The topping consists of tender boiled char siu. The moment everyone takes their first bite, they are completely stunned. They immediately realize that the broth is far more than simple salt seasoning. The thin noodles are wonderfully soft as they absorb the flavorful soup, while the rich and thick taste spreads throughout their mouths. Even the eggs have soaked up the broth, giving them a completely different flavor from anything they have ever known. The char siu is so incredibly tender that it practically melts the instant it touches their tongues. Everyone praises the meal, declaring that it is unbelievably delicious. Elise explains that the dish is called ramen. In her previous world, ramen had been so immensely popular that people willingly stood in long lines for hours outside famous restaurants just to enjoy a single bowl. Upon hearing that, everyone completely understands why such devotion exists. They believe that a dish of this quality is worth savoring down to the very last drop. Her father feels his entire body warming from the comforting noodles, and even his heart feels deeply satisfied. Every member of the family thanks Elise for bringing them yet another wonderful surprise, expressing their excitement and saying that they can hardly wait to see what she cooks next. Seeing both their hearts and stomachs completely full fills Elise with satisfaction. Her latest culinary experiment has been another great success, making her wonder what dish she should prepare next to bring happiness to the people around her. 3 weeks pass. By now, they have successfully expanded their collection of dishes as well as beauty products. However, desserts remain disappointingly limited, consisting of nothing more than fresh fruits. Elise cannot help but think that if only she could obtain some milk, this world could become a true paradise of sweets filled with butter, whipped cream, and countless delicious desserts. She begins wondering how she might acquire milk, but for the time being, she concludes that she may first need an encyclopedia about animals. Until then, she has no choice but to make do with whatever ingredients are currently available. Thinking that her mother might enjoy eating something special, Elise asks the butler about her whereabouts. He explains that her mother has gone to visit the royal castle, and no one has informed him when she is expected to return. The wedding ceremony is scheduled to take place the following day. Apparently, every noble is required to attend not only the marriage ceremony itself, but also the reception afterward. Elise learns that she is expected to offer a congratulatory speech celebrating Prince Idiot's marriage. She suddenly remembers that she has never informed the reincarnated Marianne about the peculiar marriage system of this world. Her mother had previously taught her that, as a princess, she must always remember the true meaning and responsibilities of marriage. On the day of the wedding ceremony, an unusual tradition takes place. The bride is required to publicly announce the number of male heirs she intends to give birth to during her marriage. This declaration is an extremely serious matter because, after making that vow before everyone, the bride is forbidden from leaving the birthing residence until she has successfully given birth to exactly the number of sons she promised during the wedding ceremony. Upon recalling this custom, Elise cannot help but think about how horrifying it truly is. She believes that such terrible traditions could only exist in the bizarre worlds of dating simulation games. She is absolutely certain that she herself would never have made such a promise. At the same time, she wonders whether Marianne is even aware of this dreadful custom. However, she remembers that all of this is simply part of the education given to princesses. As long as Marianne is genuinely happy about marrying, Elise decides that it is not her place to interfere or reveal anything. Before ending the conversation, Elise instructs the butler to make sure that some sweets are saved for her mother when she returns. The butler respectfully acknowledges the request and assures her that it will certainly be done. We see Elise lying in her bed, thinking that her mother has still not returned home. She has already finished both dinner and dessert when, all of a sudden, her maid arrives to inform her that her mother has finally come back. The maid explains that her mother is hoping to have tea with her. Upon hearing this, Elise becomes excited and eagerly accepts the invitation. She immediately goes to greet her mother, feeling relieved that she has returned safely. Having heard that her mother had gone to the royal castle, Elise reflects on the visit. Her mother explains that Queen Grace had summoned her, causing Elise to suspect that the queen is plotting something once again. Wanting to brighten the evening, Elise presents the desserts she has prepared. They include sweetened chestnuts with pear compote and apple fritters, the same treats that were served during that afternoon's tea. She quietly thinks to herself that she has done her very best despite having only limited ingredients available. Her mother takes a bite and is immediately delighted. She finds the pear wonderfully soft and moist, appreciating its unique texture. The chestnuts are pleasantly sweet as well, leaving her thoroughly satisfied and happier than she could have imagined. Encouraged by her mother's reaction, Elise offers her another dessert, honey-pickled apple fritters. She believes that honey is especially beneficial for her health and remarks that sweets are always the best remedy whenever someone is tired. Her mother affectionately thinks about what a kind and thoughtful daughter Elise has become. Before long, all of the desserts disappear almost instantly. She cannot help but remark that perhaps Elise possesses a completely different palate from everyone else. Despite the praise, Elise gently warns her mother not to eat too many sweets at night. Her mother wonders why that should matter, prompting Elise to explain that eating too many sweets could make her gain weight. The mere mention of the word fat causes her mother's fork to slip from her hand in complete shock. At the same time, Elise inwardly sympathizes, almost feeling like crying herself because she understands that pain all too well. She knows that, for a noble woman, there are few words more devastating than being called fat. Nevertheless, she feels compelled to insist for the sake of her mother's health. Her mother tearfully remembers that the wedding ceremony is scheduled for the following day. Elise acknowledges this and reminds her that once everything is over, they will finally be able to return to their own territory. She is genuinely happy about leaving the royal castle behind and eagerly looks forward to setting foot on their homeland once again. Her mother shares the same feelings, expressing that she, too, wishes they could return home as soon as possible. However, they still have many preparations to complete before departing the next day. Elise reflects that the royal castle has never been known for serving particularly good food. That thought comforts her because it means they will finally be able to enjoy a truly sumptuous lunch the day after tomorrow. Once they have enjoyed that wonderful meal, they can make their journey back to their own territory. She comforts herself with the belief that rewards always come after hardships, and she concludes that she can endure any hardship as long as delicious desserts await her at the end. Her mother expresses her confidence that Elise will continue to do her best. Elise responds obediently while privately thinking that those encouraging words place an incredible amount of pressure on her. The scene then shifts elsewhere. A woman at an inn asks whether a newly arrived traveler is alone. She informs him that there is only a single room available at the moment. The man removes his coat, considering himself fortunate that a room is still available. As the receptionist observes him, she cannot help thinking that he is clearly no ordinary traveler. His appearance is far too refined and handsome for someone who would normally stay in such a place. The mysterious man settles into his rented room and quietly reflects that 3 full weeks have already passed since he departed from the Empire. He begins wondering what everyone back there has been doing during his absence. Meanwhile, Elise is still thinking about what kinds of desserts would make her mother happiest. She wishes she could use dairy products, but unfortunately, she has no idea how to obtain them. Deciding that there is little she can do for now, she resolves to postpone worrying about that problem until after tomorrow's wedding ceremony. As the chapter comes to a close, both the mysterious traveler and Elise prepare themselves for what lies ahead, each unknowingly standing at the beginning of a new game that is about to unfold within the kingdom of Augusta. Elise wonders whether her sharp, cat-like eyes make her appear villainous. Then again, she reminds herself that she truly is a villainous girl. In her previous life, she had been nothing more than an ordinary, middle-aged woman with a passion for games and a rather nerdy lifestyle. However, one day she suddenly collapsed in front of her own house, and when she regained consciousness, she discovered that she had been reincarnated as the villainess of a dating otome game. When she awakens in this new world, she finds herself in the middle of the heroine's condemnation event, making it remarkably easy for her engagement to be broken off. With the memories of both her previous life and her current one now intertwined, she adapts to living with her loving family in this parallel world. Rather than dwelling on her unfortunate fate, she dedicates herself to enjoying life to the fullest. She spends her days indulging in delicious food, attending lavish parties, maintaining proper discipline, and then returning once again to food and parties, embracing her carefree lifestyle without regret. As she relaxes, A maid approaches to inform her that everything is prepared for her. Elise is currently soaking peacefully in her bath, thinking that she wishes she could remain there forever and simply spend her days lazing around. Unfortunately, the maid gently reminds her that it is time to get dressed. Soon, the familiar ritual of tightening her corset begins once more. After carefully finishing the lengthy process, the maid proudly announces that everything is complete. Elise remarks that today's preparations are even more extravagant than usual. The maid happily explains that such luxury is only natural because they are attending a wedding at the royal castle. Every detail of her appearance is perfected. Her hair is elegantly arranged, adorned with beautiful camellia flowers. Her necklace has been polished until it shines brilliantly, even using a vegetable sponge. Her waist has been tightened to its absolute limit by the corset, while her magnificent dress has been styled with such extravagance that it practically announces her status to everyone who sees her. Looking at herself, Elise cannot help but think that this is exactly how the villainous young lady is supposed to appear. She compliments her maid on a job wonderfully done, and the maid claps her hands with delight, declaring that Elise looks absolutely gorgeous. Despite the praise, Elise cannot help imagining what awaits her at the royal castle. She expects the noble guests to whisper among themselves, pointing her out as the young lady whose engagement had been broken. The thought alone feels incredibly exhausting. Nevertheless, she quickly brushes aside those worries. She has long since stopped caring about the opinions of others because she already possesses something far more valuable: a warm and dependable family that always stands by her side. As she leaves, she cheerfully greets the household servants. They all warmly return her greeting and kindly ask whether she slept well. Elise happily replies that she enjoyed an excellent night's sleep. Their kindness once again reminds her how supportive and reliable her family truly is. Her attention soon shifts to her brother, who is quietly absorbed in reading a book. Curious, she asks what he is reading. He tells her that it is a monster encyclopedia. The moment she hears that, Elise becomes genuinely interested, thinking that it is exactly the kind of book she has been looking for. She asks whether she may take a look, and he willingly agrees, even suggesting that they read it together. Before sitting beside her, however, he politely asks for her permission to do so. His respectful attitude surprises Elise, making her realize that he treats even his own sister with great courtesy. The two siblings sit together, sharing the encyclopedia. Elise cannot help feeling touched by the simple moment. In her previous life, she had been an only child, and quietly reading a book together with a sibling had always been one of the little dreams she never had the chance to experience. Now, that dream has finally become reality. As she flips through the pages, she eagerly wonders what kinds of monsters inhabit this world. One entry catches her attention immediately. It describes a creature known as the Thunder Rat. The name instantly reminds her of a monster from a famous Japanese game she used to know in her previous life, leaving her quietly amazed by the resemblance. Toli then points toward another page and encourages her to look at a different creature. Elise stares at the illustration in confusion. It appears to be a strange hybrid of a goat and a human. Curious, she wonders whether such a monster is capable of producing milk. Toli explains that the creature's curdled milk is apparently edible. The information immediately sparks countless ideas in Elise's mind. She realizes that if its curdled milk can be eaten, then it is essentially a form of cheese. Furthermore, if fresh milk can also be obtained from the creature, producing cream and butter would become much easier as well. Growing increasingly excited, Elise declares that she would love to have one of those monsters herself. Toli casually tells her that she can simply tame one. He then reminds her that she had actually tamed a monster a long time ago, wondering if she has already forgotten about it. As soon as Toli reminds her about taming a monster in the past, Elise suddenly remembers that when she was living in the family's territory, she had successfully tamed a snow wolf. She had found it inside a massive hollow log, and ever since then, she has kept it as a beloved pet. Recalling that memory, Elise becomes even more determined. She confidently declares that she will definitely tame another monster, and this time she intends to milk it for everything it is worth. Hearing her enthusiastic declaration, her mother remarks that Elise really has been longing to obtain milk all this time. Elise eagerly explains that if they can secure a reliable source of milk, they will be able to improve not only their main dishes but also create even more varieties of sweets. Her mother looks at her in surprise and wonders whether that is truly possible. She asks if there could really be even more kinds of desserts than they already have. Elise excitedly explains that once they have access to processed dairy products, an entirely new world of sweets will open before them, creating countless new moments of happiness and bliss for everyone who tastes them. Listening to her passionate explanation, her mother quietly thinks that her daughter truly is destined to become a legend. Meanwhile, Elise feels slightly embarrassed, believing that her mother expects far too much from her. Her mother then grandly announces that today will forever be remembered as the day Elise declared that she would conquer the entire world of sweets. According to her, it is nothing less than a historic occasion. Those dramatic words leave Elise both bewildered and embarrassed. She cannot help wondering why everyone is becoming so excited over something that, to her, seems perfectly ordinary. Her father joins in with equal enthusiasm, declaring that future generations will remember this remarkable day as well. With every member of the family enthusiastically encouraging her, Elise feels as though they are endlessly boosting her confidence. In the end, she simply accepts their excitement and becomes caught up in their enthusiasm herself. After the cheerful conversation, everyone agrees that it is time to leave. They decide that they will pay their respects briefly at the royal castle before returning home immediately afterward. Since they are scheduled to depart for their own territory the following day, they do not intend to stay for long. Elise understands exactly what she needs to do. If everything goes smoothly, today will become a memorable success rather than a historical failure. Noticing her daughter's expression, her mother gently asks whether she is feeling nervous about attending the royal castle. Elise honestly replies that, rather than worrying about the wedding, she has actually been thinking about the milk-producing monster the entire time. Her mother smiles warmly and reminds her that she should simply be herself without pushing herself too hard. She reassures Elise that even if she never succeeds in obtaining milk or creating new dairy-based sweets, everyone already loves the desserts she makes exactly as they are. She proudly tells her daughter that they are incredibly proud of her because she always creates beautiful sweets that bring smiles to people's faces. Those heartfelt words fill Elise with happiness, and a gentle smile naturally appears on her face. She sincerely tells her mother that she, too, is proud of the wonderful people surrounding her. To her, it is a great honor that everyone happily enjoys the meals and sweets she prepares with her own hands. Her mother smiles affectionately before declaring that they should now head toward the royal castle while carrying bright hopes for the future in their hearts. She encourages Elise to walk proudly with her head held high. Elise nods confidently and prepares herself. She reminds herself that she is no longer the pitiful villainous girl whose engagement had been broken off. Above all else, she is the proud daughter of a respected marquis family, and she has every reason to carry herself with dignity. Upon arriving at the royal castle, one of the guards politely asks her to proceed in the indicated direction. Elise graciously thanks him before following his guidance. As she walks, her attention is drawn toward the impressive guards stationed around the castle. At first, she simply thinks they look remarkably handsome in their elegant uniforms. She then remembers that they are not merely ordinary guards but members of the prestigious Lion Guard. Watching them, Elise cannot help wondering whether every handsome man in this world is destined to possess some unusually strong or eccentric personality trait. Meanwhile, at the castle gates, another guard notices a lone rider approaching on horseback. The guard immediately stops the traveler and politely informs him that permission is required before anyone may enter the royal castle. The traveler apologizes for the inconvenience before calmly presenting a signet ring, asking the guard to examine it. The moment the guard sees the crest engraved upon the ring, he immediately recognizes its significance. The young man then introduces himself as Luke, the 12th child and 5th son of the current imperial crown prince. He explains that he has traveled there to attend the wedding celebration of the Prince of Augusta. The guard is astonished to learn that a son of the imperial crown prince has journeyed such a great distance entirely without an escort. Realizing the importance of the situation, he immediately shouts for someone to report the prince's arrival. Meanwhile, Luke calmly requests that they simply guide him inside the castle. At the same time, inside the Marquis family's carriage, everyone eagerly begins asking Elise about the next dessert she plans to create. They excitedly express how much they are looking forward to tasting her newest invention and wonder what delightful sweet she will prepare next. Even her mother joins in with a smile, gently asking whether Elise could at least reveal her next idea to her. However, Elise merely smiles mysteriously and refuses to give away her secret just yet. She happily declares that she is not going to tell anyone for the time being. Inside the carriage, they notice that it is wobbling as it always does. Throughout the journey, they have also been forced to stop suddenly several times. Elise's mother remarks that she does not often see traffic this heavy. Her friend points out that they will have to get used to this, since they will also be returning to the territory by carriage. Elise agrees with everyone, acknowledging that they are right. Her mother wonders how Elise is managing to remain so composed despite the constant wobbling and sudden stops. Elise explains that she is actually using her magic to make herself float slightly. She had completely forgotten about it until now, but magic does exist in this world after all. Because of it, she feels as though she is sitting on something soft and stretchy rather than directly on the carriage seat. With this method, they should be able to endure a long journey without suffering too much discomfort. Elise is not entirely sure why, but it appears that anyone can use magic here. Her mother asks whether she can do it as well, and after hearing this, everyone begins using their own magic. It genuinely helps. They feel as though they could almost break through the ceiling because of how light and buoyant they become. Elise thinks that she has successfully demonstrated that her mother's magical power is sufficient for this. Elise then encourages her mother to try it in another way. She explains that it is almost like spinning the wind underneath her bottom. Her mother follows her instructions and manages to do it, immediately feeling as though she is floating. The pressure on her hips disappears, and she no longer feels any pain there. She finds the sensation absolutely wonderful. Elise guesses that this must be what a girl's day out is like. She has never experienced anything like this in her previous life, so the realization makes the experience feel even more enjoyable. Her mother then suggests that Elise should also make small balls of air float around her feet. The sensation feels incredibly pleasant, and Elise immediately thinks that she should try that as well. Soon, all four ladies are enjoying themselves immensely, practically feeling as though they are in heaven. Elise becomes particularly excited when she finds the most comfortable spot and happily expresses that she is having so much fun there. The others immediately point out that the kind of language she has just used sounds slightly indecent. Elise apologizes, realizing what her words sounded like. She reminds herself that she is the daughter of a marquis and really should not reveal too much of her true personality in front of everyone. Suddenly, there is a knock on the carriage door. A guard informs them that they have a message for them. A young prince from the empire has arrived to celebrate with the nobles who are gathering to see him, which explains why there is such a terrible traffic jam. Elise reasons that he is probably one of the sons of the emperor. Since his visit has not been officially noted, he is most likely a third son or someone even younger in the line of succession. Even a prince can travel wherever he wishes as long as he is a third son or lower in status, although it is still unusual for him to visit the castle completely by himself. Normally, whenever a high-ranking noble or another important noble travels, quite a few carriages, horses, and guards are required to accompany them. They are also expected to be informed when such nobles pass through the territory. Since the highway is located within her family's territory, Elise wonders how a prince could possibly be making such a trip without any border guards accompanying him. If that is truly the case, then he must be a real maverick. However, Elise does not find this either stunning or particularly admirable. She simply wonders what the prince is actually like. As soon as the other ladies hear her wondering about him, they immediately begin asking whether Elise is interested in the prince. They cannot believe that she is actually showing interest in a man. Elise usually shows very little interest in men, so their reaction makes her realize what has just happened. She thinks to herself that, somehow, she has managed to add romantic talk to their girls' day out, and the others' teasing feels like a backhanded diss. Elise wonders whether she has really become that far removed from romance. Apparently, the answer is yes, because her former fiancé had been that idiotic prince. None of what happened with him had been her fault. Finally, they are informed that they have arrived at their destination. Elise's father tells her mother that the journey has taken considerably longer than usual. He has apparently heard that one of the princes from the empire is currently here. Her mother confirms that they have already been informed about the prince as well. She then casually tells him that Elise is interested in the visiting prince. Elise's father immediately reacts with surprise and asks whether that is truly the case. Elise quickly makes it clear that she is not interested in the prince at all. Hearing this, her mother simply remarks that Elise is being rather boring. The prince of the empire has appeared at this point in time, which means that he should be one of the romanceable characters in the dating game. Elise immediately realizes that she really does not want to get involved with any of them. She knows that the best thing she can do is remain quiet and avoid attracting unnecessary attention. Finally, they are announced. A butler arrives and politely tells them that they are to wait in the daybreak room. Elise observes that, usually, many servants accompany a single noble, while their family has one retainer assigned to each member. Her father's retainer is Alec. All of the retainers serving their family are highly skilled in martial arts and are capable of handling weapons with ease. Caswell's retainer is Ray, while Tully's retainer is Fry. The maids, meanwhile, are apparently strong enough to defeat enemies on their own in battle. Elise realizes once again that her family is extraordinary, and their servants are no different. The scene then shifts to Elise's father asking whether she is planning to prepare an elaborate lunch for tomorrow night. Honestly, Elise thinks that her father is nothing more than a shiny, bottomless pit when it comes to food. She tells him that she is planning to prepare fried chicken and ramen noodles, along with a soup made from soy sauce and chicken stock. She is also thinking about preparing a new dish using some kind of meat. Everyone agrees that this sounds wonderful, and Elise's father's heart begins pounding with anticipation. However, Elise cannot help thinking that no one is going to tell him that it is actually his stomach that is doing all the pounding. Suddenly, the butler arrives and informs them that the ceremony will begin soon. Elise realizes that the time has finally come for her to work her way through the crowd of nobles while enduring their curious glances. Her brother tells her that he will escort her today, affectionately referring to her as his little princess. This makes Elise think that Caswell appears to be even shinier than usual because he is already excited about tomorrow's lunch. He is always so dependable, Elise thinks. At the same time, his overwhelming shininess is so intense that it feels as though no one around him can even keep their eyes open. The girls are beginning to gather, and Elise immediately thinks that the Prince of the Empire must be somewhere among them. He is already treated like an idol here, so Elise decides that she should stay as far away from him as possible. However, curiosity gets the better of her. She wonders what he is actually like and whether he is really that good looking. Because of this, she tries to sneak a peek at him. The moment she sees him turn his face, Elise immediately realizes that he must be the prince. Their eyes meet. The prince notices her, and his eyes suddenly widen. Elise is puzzled by his reaction and wonders what in the world that expression is supposed to mean. She wonders whether he is surprised. Perhaps it is because her engagement has been broken off, but again, he does not look evil or anything like the type of character she remembers from the dating game. He also does not seem like the kind of person who would do anything particularly entertaining or dramatic. Around them, everyone begins whispering excitedly. They point out that Elise is over there and start wondering what she and their prince will talk about today. Her brother notices Elise's expression and asks whether she is all right. Elise assures him that she is perfectly fine and that there is nothing to worry about. He points out that the person they are looking at must be the Prince of the Empire and asks whether Elise is interested in him. Elise immediately denies it. She explains that she has only noticed that he looked at her and gave her a startled expression. She cannot understand why anyone would react that way during their first meeting. Elise thinks that the prince's reaction is not very nice, but before she can dwell on it any further, they are almost standing in front of the emperor. She is reminded that she needs to stay focused. She knows that this is true. She has to bring this ridiculous game to an end before she can finally return to her territory and live freely again. Elise reassures her father and mother that they do not need to worry about her. She intends to behave properly as a noble. However, the prince is giving her a strange and unpleasant feeling. In fact, Elise thinks that he looks like someone who is playing a small fry kind of role. He is supposed to be one of the main romanceable characters, so she cannot understand what has happened to the game. The Prince of the Empire is supposed to be one of the more popular characters among the players of the game. Yet, the person standing before her does not seem to match the image she has in her mind at all. Then Elise notices that the second prince, Luke, is still looking at her. She cannot understand why on earth he keeps staring at her. Still, she decides that it does not matter. There are so many things she wants to say, but this is the last time she intends to come here. Therefore, she decides that she will simply give a quick greeting and say goodbye. Meanwhile, Luke continues looking at Elise, thinking that she must be the villainous girl from the story. He notices her eyes and thinks that they really do resemble the eyes of the villainous character from the game. Elise goes to celebrate the wedding of Prince Idiot, and everyone around her is worried. She should be fine because she possesses an indomitable heart. However, the chef clarifies that this is not what he is worried about. His concern is that Elise might be about to start another fight. Elise wants to finish this whole affair as quickly as possible, so she decides to make use of her noble manners and composure. She prepares herself to deliver a proper speech. She begins by stating that she will not allow the Prince Idiot's creepy face to upset her and proceeds to address him as the daughter of a marquis, maintaining the dignified attitude expected of her position. She congratulates him on finally getting to marry the love of his life. Although she has known him for a long time as his former wife, she remarks that she has never seen him look quite so dignified before. The irony behind her words is painfully obvious. However, Prince Idiot is probably far too foolish to understand the sarcasm hidden within them, and, as expected, he does not understand it at all. Instead, he hears only the word dignified and takes it as a sincere compliment. His reaction makes it clear that he genuinely considers himself dignified, and Elise cannot help but think that possessing this much self-esteem is almost admirable in its own strange way. She continues her speech by wishing him and his new wife all the best, along with a future filled with happiness. The prince giggles and calls her a cutie. He then suggests that if she continues behaving so obediently and pleasantly, he might reconsider his decision and keep her here after all. He reminds her that he is a member of the royal family, as though that fact alone gives him the right to make such a ridiculous decision about her life. Elise is left completely dumbfounded. At this point, she desperately wants to eat some ramen. She also remembers the dried fruit she placed in sake some time ago. By now, it must be nicely soaked and ready to eat. Perhaps she should add it to tomorrow's lunch. She deliberately focuses her thoughts on food because it is the only thing keeping her rage under control. However, the idiot prince continues. He suggests that if Elise bows down before him and pleads with him right here, he might graciously accept her as one of his mistresses. He even insists that she should do it immediately. Elise grits her teeth. She would rather die. She cannot understand how much more of a jerk this man can possibly become. Even the people surrounding them appear visibly uncomfortable and weirded out by what they are hearing. Then Elise notices something else. Her father and mother are going to be furious too. Her family has given her their strength and entrusted her with their spirit, and Elise knows that she has to restrain herself for their sake. She cannot simply lose control here, no matter how badly the prince provokes her. So, instead, she responds with feigned surprise, wondering aloud whether he is actually certain that he is speaking to her. She continues by pretending that she must have heard him incorrectly. She politely excuses herself while making it clear that she still remembers exactly how he behaved the other day. She then pointedly wonders whether she should tell everyone present about that incident. After all, she thinks, the citizens would probably be very interested in learning what kind of person the prince truly is. The atmosphere immediately changes. Everyone begins murmuring among themselves, wondering what happened to the prince the other day and questioning whether there is something about the incident that they do not know. The prince, suddenly concerned that his reputation might be ruined, realizes that he needs to stop Elise before she reveals anything further. He therefore asks whether the two of them can have a private conversation. Elise, however, has already made her decision. For her own sake, and for the sake of allowing the prince's first wife to enjoy the happiest moment of her life without further disturbance, Elise decides that she will return to her family's territory. With perfect composure, she makes it clear that this is what she has decided and asks the prince to please allow her to leave. Elise does not even have a little bit of time to wait for his response. Just then, her brother arrives and immediately pulls her away, explaining that he has been worried about her. More specifically, he has been worried that she might end up destroying the castle. Fortunately, Elise has managed to control herself remarkably well. She is safe now, which makes her wonder whether she is some kind of wild horse that everyone has to worry about breaking loose. Her brothers have also managed to get their parents away in time. Her father and mother had nearly exploded with anger as well, so moving them away before things became even worse was probably the right decision. Suddenly, Elise notices that Manhwa and Rose are here too. She greets them after such a long time without seeing each other. These two ladies are, technically speaking, the prince's future concubines-to-be. In other words, they are the women who are supposed to marry the prince after Elise's engagement to him has been broken off. Manhwa and Rose admit that the prince's conduct earlier had been bizarre. Although he has always been outspoken, his attitude today has been far worse than usual. The two ladies confess that they do not think they can support that kind of prince while Elise is no longer in the castle. Elise remembers that the three of them once had a good discussion about how they could support the prince by using their respective family resources to help enrich the country, even though her own engagement to him had already been broken off. She now tells the two ladies that she will continue to support them once they become princesses here. Manhwa and Rose thank her sincerely, explaining that hearing such words from their hero is incredibly reassuring. Elise knows that there is only so much she can do, but she genuinely wants to help the two of them. Suddenly, someone calls out to her. When Elise turns around, she finds Luke standing there. Luke asks whether he may borrow her for a second, which immediately causes the other ladies to react with excitement. They recognize him as the prince from the Empire and begin wondering whether he is actually Elise's next romantic interest. To them, the possibility is incredibly exciting. Before Elise can respond properly, her brother steps forward and positions himself in front of her. He asks Luke whether there is something he can help him with. And just like that, the hot guy battle begins. However, Elise quickly notices something else. The other ladies have already fainted. It seems that there really is some kind of power possessed by good-looking men. Elise turns her attention back to Luke and asks whether he was saying that he wanted to speak with her. However, Luke's attention shifts toward her brother. He looks at him with interest and begins wondering whether this man is a hidden character. That immediately makes Elise suspicious. Now she knows. Luke is reincarnated. She had been wondering whether he knows a lot about dating simulations, and his reaction only makes her more convinced. Luke then comments on the situation with a remark that makes Elise think of the classic flow of a light novel textbook, calling it a sign of the times. Now it is her turn. Elise realizes that there is a legendary line from games that she has always wanted to say herself. She decides to use it and explains that the situation is complicated, but that there is a long and short version of it. Luke responds with the familiar abbreviation, STHP. Elise immediately realizes that this is the perfect response. It proves it. Luke is definitely reincarnated, and he has played enough dating games to recognize exactly what she is referring to. At this point, Elise cannot help but wonder how many reincarnated people are actually wandering around this place. There seem to be far too many of them. She decides that, because of this, she absolutely should not continue talking to Luke here. But before she can do anything else, someone else suddenly approaches. The newcomer wonders aloud what on earth a lady whose engagement has been broken off is doing here. The annoying man looks at Elise and seems to conclude that she is such an easy woman to deal with. She notices that this chilly atmosphere must mean that her brother is extremely angry. He turns toward the Baron and tells him that he should excuse him, but his words sound a little rude. The Baron, however, remains completely unfazed. He explains that his daughter is married to the prince, so he could say that his status is higher than that of any of them. This makes Elise wonder what kind of logic that is. The Baron then says that, in any case, he has not seen his daughter around and asks Elise whether she knows where she is. But once again, he immediately adds that he begs her pardon, considering that she is the lady whose engagement was broken off and therefore could never be expected to know such important information. Elise can clearly tell that he has absolutely no idea about the royal tradition. Her brother then explains that once a lady is married into the royal family, she is not permitted to leave the prince's palace until she gives birth to the number of children that was decided upon and officially announced on the day of the wedding. Regarding the marriage itself, a messenger from the royal castle should have delivered the documents to the Baron along with all the important information concerning the arrangement. The Baron reacts with disbelief, wondering what he is supposed to do with such thick documents and who could possibly read something like that. Regardless of whether he has read them or not, he insists that his daughter is the first wife of the prince. This makes Elise wonder what exactly he is so angry at them for. By now, the atmosphere has become incredibly heated. Luke observes that the Baron has quite a defiant attitude. Since he is not from their country, he is probably overstepping his boundaries. However, Luke also wonders whether the Baron should not take a marriage into the royal family much more seriously. Elise notices that while her brother is cold toward the Baron, Luke is becoming increasingly heated by the situation. She feels sorry that no one properly informed the Baron about the royal tradition, but there is nothing she can do for them. She is genuinely sorry about the misunderstanding. With no other option left, the Baron eventually runs off as well. Elise watches him leave and then notices something else. Luke has had her back throughout the entire situation, even though they have only met for the first time. From that alone, she concludes that he must be a good person. With that thought, her brother turns toward Elise and asks whether Luke is someone she is interested in. Elise immediately denies it and makes it clear that she is not interested in him that way. She then turns to Castle and Luke and thanks them both sincerely. Afterward, she asks Luke whether he has some time to spare. She truly appreciates what he has done for her and would like to properly thank him, so she suggests that they move to one of the family waiting rooms where they can talk privately. Luke agrees without hesitation and says that they can do that, adding that they can then talk about their reincarnation. Elise is stunned. He has understood exactly what she means through nothing more than their eye contact. From everything Luke has said so far, Elise begins to suspect that he might know even more about the game than she does. For the first time since her reincarnation, she finally gets the opportunity to speak with someone else who has also been reincarnated. The realization fills her with excitement, and she is absolutely thrilled. With that, we see that Elise is now outside, where she notices that her brother Caswell and Hilda are there. Hilda greets her as if they have not seen each other in a long time and reminds Elise that she is actually Tully's fiancée. Hilda then asks Elise whether she would like to introduce her friend. Elise begins to explain that he is, but then suddenly realizes that she cannot remember his name. She wonders what his name was again and considers whether her brother Caswell might be able to help her. However, it seems that he has no idea either, which makes Elise wonder whether he is trying to say that he does not know the man's name either. With that, she turns toward Luke and asks him to introduce himself. Luke has no problem with it and proceeds to introduce himself to Hilda. He politely tells her that it is nice to meet her and explains that his name is Luke, the 5th son and 12th child of the prince of the current empire. Elise then asks whether he is Luke's guy, but he immediately denies it. His response comes so quickly that Elise cannot help but think that his denial is incredibly fast. It is important to note that Elise and Luke are not seeing each other romantically. There is no romantic relationship between them at this point. Hilda then tells Elise that she has returned together with the imperial prince and praises her for doing well. She compares Elise to a certain daughter of a baron, clearly implying that the other girl has not accomplished anything comparable. Elise immediately realizes that Hilda has a remarkably sharp tongue. With that, they instruct Alec that Luke is Elise's special guest and tell him to make sure that Luke is treated accordingly. This makes Elise wonder whether they are behaving as though they are introducing her boyfriend to her entire family. Still, Elise has something much more important on her mind. She needs to ask Luke about the reincarnation. She therefore tells Alec that she has something she needs to discuss with Luke privately. She asks him to bring some tea to the table in the corner, and Alec immediately agrees to do so. With that settled, Elise takes Luke with her, pulling him toward the corner and insisting that they should go over there. However, Luke notices that everyone around them is staring at the two of them. Despite all the attention, Luke seems completely unfazed. He simply ignores everyone watching them, which makes Elise think that he really is an imperial prince. He must be accustomed to being the center of attention wherever he goes. Elise also begins to think that Luke is probably the heroine, or at least someone connected to the heroine, and that they are both reincarnated people. Even though they cannot exchange much information in their current situation, they still need to talk about it. Elise finally asks whether they are inside the world of a dating game. Luke replies that he thinks so. His quick response makes Elise internally thank him for answering so quickly. Luke then points out that Elise is a villainess and questions why she has not been condemned. Elise explains that the reason is because she knows too much about the inhuman royal tradition and the disappointing prince. She willingly gave her position away to the heroine and left peacefully rather than trying to fight against the story's predetermined course. Luke then questions whether the royal family is truly that inhuman. Elise explains that, apparently, the royal family used to have splendid weddings and grand celebration parades. However, that tradition ended around 5 generations ago. Things are no longer like that now. Luke reacts to this by acknowledging how rough the situation sounds. Elise then adds that she has also heard that the princess had an affair with one of the high-class nobles, despite already being engaged to the prince. To Elise, that sounds exactly like someone playing the reverse harem route in a dating game. She then brings up something else that has been bothering her. She does not remember seeing a character like Luke anywhere in the game. Luke reveals that there is actually an explanation for that. He is a secret character. This makes Elise wonder whether he does not stand out far too much to be considered a secret character. After all, he is an imperial prince, and it seems almost impossible for someone like him to remain hidden. Elise then begins wondering about something even more important. If Luke is a secret character, how exactly does he meet the heroine? Luke replies that apparently, he sees a beautiful heroine at the wedding, falls in love with her, and then steals her away at the altar. Elise cannot help but think that what a wild episode that would be. Luke explains that if Elise were a member of the royal family, she would know that something like that could never happen. Elise immediately realizes that he is right. If an imperial prince were to steal a bride from another man at the altar, it would become a serious problem for the entire country. She feels relieved that Luke is such a reasonable prince. Luke expresses the same sentiment toward her, saying that he is glad they are both on the same level and can understand one another. Meanwhile, Elise notices that her family is whispering among themselves quite a lot while watching the two of them. Still looking in their direction, Elise asks Luke why he knows so much about the dating game. Luke explains that he likes anime and manga well enough, but his sister is a hardcore fan. She attends every comic convention she can, regardless of how large or small it is. His sister loves both reading and writing boys' love stories. She even writes her own stories while making her brother play the dating game so that he can advance through it for her. Luke explains that his sister is both a slasher and a dating game lover, and that she likes to play the field. He guesses that his sister is simply like that, although she is extremely fickle. Suddenly, a loud noise comes from somewhere nearby. Elise wonders whether it might have been Caswell, but she still has something she wants to discuss with Luke. However, when she looks toward her family, she notices that her mother looks completely exhausted, almost like a dead fish. Unfortunately, Elise realizes that she has to end her introduction with Luke there. She decides that they should simply go home. She suggests that they eat pasta made in the style of ramen, using a soy sauce beef bone soup, with extra slices of soft and thick ingredients placed on top. As Elise begins to leave, Luke suddenly approaches her from behind and asks whether she really said that she is making pasta like ramen. Elise cannot help but wonder where the cool-looking guy she saw only a moment ago has disappeared to. Luke's eyes now look like those of a hawk staring down its prey. She immediately explains that she could not make actual ramen noodles, so she made pasta instead and altered the pasta recipe to give it a ramen-style taste. Luke immediately becomes interested and questions whether she is serious about it. He then pulls her toward him and eagerly says that he wants some too. Elise reminds him that her family is returning to the capital tomorrow, so he had better not expect to become a guest at their house tonight. She tells him that she is not the person he should be asking. If he truly wants to join them, perhaps he can kneel before her father and ask for his permission. Of course, Elise does not seriously expect him to do that. An imperial prince would never actually kneel before someone like that simply to ask for dinner. However, to Elise's complete surprise, Luke actually begins begging. He earnestly pleads with her father and asks him to please allow him to try their meal. Elise cannot believe what she is seeing. She wonders what a waste of gracefulness this is and questions what is even happening. At that moment, her mother approaches from behind and asks Elise what she has told Prince Luke. Elise explains that Luke has said he wants to dine with them. She had been planning to refuse him, so she told him that he should kneel before her father and ask for permission. However, she quickly clarifies that she was never serious about it and was only joking. Her mother immediately calls out to her husband and announces that they will welcome Prince Luke as their guest. She then turns to her husband and asks for his opinion. He agrees to welcome Luke, and he also asks Elise whether she wants him to join them as well. Elise notices that her mother looks as though she is clearly up to something. On the other hand, her father looks incredibly troubled. Her brothers and Hilda are also watching Elise and Luke with rather lukewarm expressions. Elise realizes that Luke is unlikely to be happy if he discovers that her family thinks there is something romantic going on between them. She knows that she needs to make things clear. However, before she can do anything, she suddenly hears another rumble coming from her mother's stomach. Elise immediately understands what this means. Before she can worry about anything else, she has to tame her mother's hunger first. Elise tells her mother that as soon as they get home, they will ask the chef to prepare pork dumplings and fried barley rice as well. Luke comments that the dumplings sound absolutely fantastic, using such an exaggerated expression that Elise cannot help thinking that his wording is even worse than hers. Her mother also tells him to please calm himself down. She then wonders whether it will be all right for Luke to stay with them that night, considering that he will be joining them for dinner afterward. Luke immediately assures them that there is no problem and explains that he will simply return to the hotel to collect his baggage before coming back. Elise questions whether he was not invited to the castle to stay there as a guest. Luke explains that he instead gets a room at a hotel in the town because, if he stays at the castle, he will not be able to run away from the heroine whenever he needs to. Elise thinks that she understands exactly what he means. She can certainly understand why he would want to run away. Luke then tells everyone that he will see them again in a little while and bids them farewell for now. He looks sharp and composed, but Elise feels that there is something strangely unusual about him. She turns to her family and remarks that she finds him interesting. Her father then tells all of them that he has something important to share. The princes have announced that Elise will have 3 children. Because of this, she will not be allowed to leave the palace for quite some time. The prince's second and third wives will also be moving into the palace soon, although Marianne will remain alone for a while. Her mother then tells everyone that they should all head home because they are starving. Elise, meanwhile, thinks that other people's business is no longer her concern. She happily tells her family that they should return to their sweet home, and everyone looks forward to having dinner together. At last, Elise feels that she has finally severed all her ties with that idiot prince. Her maid is helping her change dresses and asks her not to move around so much while she is getting dressed. Elise apologizes, but she cannot help herself because she is simply too happy to be free. She realizes that she has been patient all this time only because she wanted to support the country. She reminds herself that she has done exactly that. Now she has even started planting potatoes, and she can produce them within their own territory. She no longer has to live in the palace anymore. Everything is finally working out, and Elise feels incredibly motivated. Her maid then tells her that she has heard Prince Luke has already arrived and that it is almost time for dinner. Elise immediately realizes that he is already there. She asks the chef to prepare an extra serving so that everything will be ready when he sits down to eat. She thinks that Luke will probably eat quite a lot. After all, the food served there is not particularly satisfying when they have memories from their previous lives. Now that he is the prince of the empire, Elise decides that he should be prepared to be amazed by their dinner. She intends to make that already shocked expression on his face look even more surprised. Elise enters the dining room and apologizes for keeping everyone waiting. Her family is already seated at the table as usual, and she also welcomes Prince Luke. However, the moment he turns toward her, he excitedly declares that the goddess has landed. Elise immediately shouts at him for being an idiot and tells him to wipe his mouth. She then apologizes to everyone for his behavior, explaining that he is simply too excited about the food that is about to arrive. This makes her think that so much for his cool guy image. The butler announces that they can begin serving since everyone appears to be present. Elise also asks the butler to provide chopsticks for their guests. She is certain that Luke remembers chopsticks from his previous life. Luke questions whether she really has chopsticks, and Elise confirms that she does. This makes him think about how incredibly nostalgic the sight is. He is now ready to experience their dinner, and Elise mentally announces the experience as one worthy of the Imperial Prince Luke. Finally, the food is presented. Luke immediately recognizes that there is no doubt about it, the dish is ramen. He notices the crunchy texture of the finely chopped vegetables, the super thick BOR meat, and the egg, which has been boiled perfectly. Everyone already knows that Luke is going to be impressed by Elise's cooking. He continues eating and repeatedly expresses how good it is. Elise asks whether he wants some dumplings, and Luke agrees that they look amazing. However, the dumpling turns out to be extremely hot. Elise immediately shouts at him to calm down. The others notice that these are the extra juicy version of the dumplings, so Luke must have burned his tongue. From the nose upward, he still manages to look like a hard, composed guy, but the lower half of his face resembles a puffed-up squirrel. Elise bets that her family is already shaking their heads at the sight. Luke continues to express his happiness over how amazing the food is. Elise then informs him that the main course is coming next, which is fried rice. Luke becomes excited once again and reacts as though the goat has arrived. He even begins composing a haiku with all these words. Elise thinks that it is so stupid, yet somehow actually smart at the same time. Although it is nice to see him eating with such genuine joy, Elise is getting tired of pointing out every little thing, so she decides that she will simply start eating at her own pace. Her mother then notices something and asks what it is. Elise explains that it is solid chili oil that she made the other day and that it has a nice spicy kick. Her mother asks whether she can try some, and Elise agrees. Soon, everyone takes a bite, and the entire family finally seems to be in sync. Elise looks toward Luke and asks whether he wants some as well. Luke agrees that it is good and says that he will have some of that too. Elise notices that he is trying to act like a proper prince again. However, the moment he takes a bite, he immediately returns to his usual self and exclaims that it is freaking great and that it is simply too awesome. Elise's mother points out that he has used a very informal expression. Luke explains that the food is so delicious that it reminds him of his old times. Elise becomes worried at once. She wonders if Luke has almost revealed something about his previous life. Before she can dwell on it for too long, Elise's father announces that a second helping has arrived. A bowl of ramen is brought out with an extra slice of char specifically for Luke. Elise's brother also receives his second helping, with 2 additional servings of dumplings prepared for him. Tolly says that ramen and 2 servings of dumplings with 3 slices of char can be prepared without any problem, and the butler immediately assures everyone that it will not be an issue. Someone even places an extravagant order, requesting that everything be covered with char like a lid. Everyone questions who could possibly have made such a luxurious request, and the butler reveals that Fry is the one who ordered it that way. This makes Elise's brother exclaim in disbelief that his attendant really has done something like that. Elise notices the man as well. He looks gentle and mild-mannered, but she cannot help thinking that he is surprisingly extravagant. All of them then decide that they want the same thing and announce that they will be ordering it as well. Luke declares that he also demands to have his ramen served with a lid made of char, delivering the statement as though he is making an extremely serious announcement. He also decides to have a serving of dumplings and admits that he already cannot wait. On the other hand, Elise chuckles at all of them, thinking that these guys only care about the amount of food and never seem to consider experimenting or customizing their meals. She then announces her own order and asks the chef butler to listen carefully. She requests a half-size serving of fried rice in a soup bowl, ramen without the noodles, 1 slice of char, and 2 boiled eggs. She specifically asks for no fried vegetables, but still wants a serving of dumplings. Luke immediately recognizes what she has just ordered as ramen rice. He chuckles as he realizes what she has created, describing it as juicy and tasty rice fried in some lard and served in an irresistible bowl of ramen rice, sprinkled with green leaves that are enough to spark anyone's appetite. He further realizes that the mellow yolks of the boiled eggs will make the rice soft and delicious. Luke admits that he never saw such an idea coming. Elise casually tells him that he can order a 3rd plate after he finishes his 2nd one. Luke immediately calls her a goddess, which makes Elise shout at him to shut up and calls him an idiot. Luke then cries out in disbelief, saying that he never imagined he would be able to talk like this again, the way he used to. This makes Elise's family wonder whether this is actually their usual way of communicating and whether they are really not fighting at all. They conclude that young people indeed seem to have an incredible amount of energy. Luke continues by thanking Elise emotionally and saying that he is moved to tears. He expresses how happy he would be if they could have many more opportunities to chat like this in the future. Elise notices that Luke's hands are covered in grease, and his face, especially the area around his mouth, is greasy as well. Despite this, she is enjoying herself. She feels glad that she has finally met someone who seems to have lived in the same world as she did and therefore understands the same things she does. The two of them then shake hands, agreeing that they will become very good friends and help each other whenever necessary. Just at that moment, Elise's mother points out that the ramen has arrived, with the char placed on top like a lid. The dish looks absolutely brilliant. Elise feels happy seeing everyone looking so pleased with their food. She takes a bite and immediately remarks that it is incredibly juicy and delicious. Luke watches her and says that it looks really good, adding that he wants to try that one after he finishes what he currently has. Luke continues eating enthusiastically, consuming an enormous amount of food, while Elise tells him not to push himself too hard. Elise's mother also gently tells Luke that he does not have to finish everything. This leaves Elise confused because she finds it surprising that her mother is being so nice to him. Luke, however, insists that he cannot stand the thought of leaving such delicious ramen unfinished. Elise's father completely understands how he feels. He explains that it is the worst feeling when someone cannot eat something delicious that is sitting right in front of them, and Luke must be feeling disappointed with himself. He then advises Luke that if he remembers that feeling of disappointment, he can use the experience to gauge the condition of his stomach and determine how much he can comfortably eat the next time. He considers it only natural that Luke becomes so excited because this is his first time joining their dinner. Luke continues to cry emotionally, promising that he will eat everything the next time. Elise cannot help thinking that, in such a short amount of time, this guy has already established himself as the youngest and most doted-on member of the family. Luke continues crying while looking toward Elise, which makes her think that, despite everything, he indeed looks much less like a little kid than she had initially expected. Elise then asks him whether he thinks he still has room for some dessert. She explains that today's dessert is apple sorbet. Luke is immediately amazed by this and questions whether Elise's cooking abilities are really that advanced, concluding that she is truly amazing. Elise explains that she used to make sorbet using ice magic, but eventually could not be bothered to keep doing it that way. Instead, she built herself a refrigerator. Luke understands the inconvenience of using magic and agrees that relying on magic for such things can be annoying. He then becomes curious and asks whether she can make ice cream as well. Elise explains that she cannot make ice cream at the moment because she cannot obtain any milk. Because of that, she is planning to catch a satyr when she returns to her family's territory. Luke immediately becomes curious and asks whether satyrs actually live within her territory. Elise explains that, according to the monster encyclopedia she has read, they do. The moment Luke hears about the monster encyclopedia, he becomes extremely excited. He wants to know whether Elise actually has one and immediately expresses his desire to look through it. Elise considers this and decides that it might be a good idea. She then asks Tolly to bring the monster encyclopedia because Prince Luke has never read one and would apparently like to read it. Tolly assures her that he will have someone bring it there. Elisa's father then suggests that everyone move to the salon now. Luke chuckles, admitting that he is extremely full. Elise asks him how he found the meal and whether he was surprised. Luke admits that he certainly was. He explains that, since beginning his life in this world, he has never eaten dishes with that much kick and flavor. Food like this is simply not common in this world, and, apart from that, almost everything here seems to be excessively salty. Elisa's father turns toward her and praises her cuisine, saying that Elisa's cooking is delicious. Luke wholeheartedly agrees, saying that the food is indeed great and once again promising that he will eat everything next time. Elisa's father chuckles at this and tells him that he had better be prepared. Meanwhile, Elisa's mother asks her husband to come over to her. She tells him that the two young people should be left alone. Luke then turns his attention toward Elise and remarks that she has a warm family. Elise smiles warmly and agrees, saying that her family is the best and that she considers herself incredibly lucky to have such lovely people around her. Someone comes and informs Elise that he has brought the monster encyclopedia she requested. Elise thanks Frey for bringing it. She recognizes him as the same guy who had gone over his master's head to order ramen covered with char. She thinks that, well, it is nice to see that even the servant has gotten to try and enjoy the ramen. Their household really is a good standing enterprise, or rather, a respectable and well-established noble family. With that, Elise turns toward Luke and suggests that they go and sit on the sofa over there so they can read the encyclopedia together. Luke agrees and says that they should go. He also chuckles, remarking that he has not had the opportunity to read an encyclopedia together with someone else since he was little. This makes Elise think about what an overwhelming and blinding prince aura he has. With that, they notice that the apple sorbet has also arrived. Suddenly, Elise notices that her mother is smirking at the two of them. Elise immediately wonders whether her mother is thinking that there is something going on between the two of them. She even begins to wonder whether her mother is trying to set Luke up as her new fiancé. Elise cannot help wondering what on earth her mother is thinking. The day before Elisa's engagement is officially broken off, Queen Grace invites Elisa's mother to meet with her. When Elisa's mother arrives, she asks Grace whether she has kept her waiting for long. Grace replies that she has been waiting for a little while and adds that she has been looking forward to seeing her for such a long time. She feels that the day has finally arrived, almost too quickly. Elisa's mother tells Grace that she is just as pretty as she was back in college. Grace says that she still remembers how the two of them stayed close for 3 years during that time. Elisa's mother understands that Grace has not invited her merely to reminisce about their old times. She knows that there must be something else Grace wants to discuss. Grace then reminds her that she is the daughter of the Sylvania family, a family that has held the position of chancellor within the empire for generations. As prestigious aristocrats, the Sylvania family has always maintained a healthy political position and remained strong both mentally and physically. They support the imperial family and are willing to dispose of their rivals whenever necessary. Elisa's mother says that she remembers the day Grace told her about the secret potion. It is the potion that the Sylvanians have secretly passed down from generation to generation. She recalls that the potion is an infertility curse, one capable of cursing someone so that they are unable to have a child. Grace explains that, as a mother, she wants her son's dream to come true. However, as the queen, she cannot allow their bloodline to become soiled. With that, Grace begins to cry. Elisa's mother tells her that she is a magnificent queen. The princess has turned everyone against her, yet she is still alive. Elisa's mother thinks that, considering everything, the princess is rather lucky. However, Elisa's mother becomes furious at the thought that the princess could be considered lucky. She cannot understand how someone in such a position could be called fortunate. She knows that there is absolutely no possibility for the princess to escape from the birdcage, and their country remains secure. If Prince Idiot's selfish marriage is allowed to prevail, then Elise also has the right to choose the person she loves. More than anything, Elisa's mother sincerely hopes that Elise will have a happy engagement this time. Elise wonders if her mother is angry, while her mother, on the other hand, thinks that all of this is happening because Grace spoiled that idiot prince in the first place. Even so, she cannot deny that Elise is incredibly reliable, despite having a few quirks of her own. Meanwhile, Luke's eyes widen in surprise as he looks at the monsters in front of him. He recognizes them immediately, wondering if they are not the famous monsters from that one game and the other game as well. Elise confirms that this is exactly the case, since they are currently living in a world based on games. She finds it almost amusing, though it is a shame that they cannot show the pictures without censoring them. The places where these monsters have been spotted are apparently all located within territories involved in the war. Luke becomes determined to go monster hunting and take them all down, looking remarkably serious as he considers the task ahead. Elise cannot help but notice how focused he suddenly looks. She then reminds him that they need to secure a source of milk first. Once they have milk, they can turn it into butter, whipped cream, and cheese. From there, they can also make cakes and even ice cream. The thought makes both of them laugh, and they become genuinely excited and happy about all the possibilities. Watching them from the side, Elise's family thinks that the two of them seem to be getting along remarkably well. However, they do not exactly look like a couple. Their relationship appears more like two people who have simply found something they can enthusiastically enjoy together. Suddenly, Elise begins to yawn. Luke notices immediately that she looks sleepy and realizes that she must be exhausted. Elise apologizes and explains that she woke up early that morning, so she is feeling a little tired. Luke understands that she has had an incredibly long day. He reminds her, in his own unexpectedly considerate manner, that her long journey is going to begin tomorrow, so she should make sure to go to bed early tonight. There are moments when Luke suddenly behaves exactly like a prince should, and Elise cannot help but remember that, despite everything else about him, he really is a prince. Elise gets to her feet and agrees that she will go to bed early. She then turns toward her mother, father, and everyone else at the table, asking them to allow her to excuse herself early for the night. Her father immediately understands how exhausted she must be. After all, she has already endured the disappointment caused by the prince today, so it is no wonder that she is completely worn out. Even so, she still manages to prepare dinner for everyone. He cannot help but feel proud of his wonderful daughter and encourages her to get some proper rest. Elise knows that her father must be tired as well, especially after having to deal with the extremely excitable imperial prince for the entire day. Her mother also wishes her good night and lets her know that they will see her again in the morning. Even Prince Luke wishes her a good night. He thanks her for everything she has done that day and admits that he now has a great deal to look forward to. Elise returns his good night wishes, already thinking that once she manages to make some ice cream, she will send some to him as well. After Elise leaves the room, her mother immediately turns her attention toward Prince Luke. She asks how he feels about Elise. Luke's eyes widen as he suddenly realizes that everyone in the room is staring directly at him, clearly waiting for his answer. He responds that Elise is a wonderful woman. The moment they hear his answer, the four of them turn toward one another and immediately begin gossiping among themselves. They are impressed by how flawlessly the imperial prince handles the situation. They conclude that he must already be accustomed to being forcefully paired up with girls and placed under this kind of pressure. They cannot help but admire how strong his mentality is. Even after being suddenly cornered by all of them and pressured into answering such a personal question, he manages to smile calmly and give a perfectly composed response. Meanwhile, Luke himself is completely confused. He has no idea why everyone is suddenly looking at him like that, nor does he understand what exactly he has done to cause such a reaction. The scene then cuts to Elise and her maid as they walk together after dinner. Her maid remarks that dinner is as delicious as always, and Elise is pleased to hear that. However, she immediately begins wondering whether there has been enough food for all the servants as well. Her maid assures her that there has been more than enough for everyone. When Elise's engagement is broken off, the servants are all extremely worried about what will happen to her. Now, however, they are actually happy that the engagement has been broken off. Elise cannot help but think that her maid is incredibly honest. As they continue walking, Elise begins wondering where she should go from here. She considers whether she should open a confectionery store of her own. The moment her maid hears this, she happily declares that she would come to buy something every single day. Elise's desserts are always delicious, after all. People often say that eating too many sweets will make someone gain weight, but Elise has always told her maid that she simply needs to exercise in order to maintain herself. Because of that, her maid has been trying incredibly hard to exercise. Elise asks whether she really has been working that hard, and then jokingly wonders if her maid might even lose weight if she fights. Her maid immediately assures her that something like that will never happen. She has heard that Elise is stronger than even their own bodyguards. Apparently, Master mentioned about a month ago that Elise had become remarkably skilled. Elise immediately realizes what they are referring to. About a month ago, there was the incident at the castle involving one punch and one kick. That must be what everyone has been talking about. Her maid confirms that this is indeed the case. She even says that Elise has effectively become a one-person member of the Shield Battalion, the kingdom's ultimate line of defense. Elise modestly dismisses the praise, explaining that it is more accurate to say that Master simply gave her an opportunity to demonstrate the skills she already possessed. She then wonders if people have started calling her a violent Marchioness's daughter. Still, it does not matter much. She will be leading tomorrow anyway. Her maid agrees and reminds Elise that she will follow her wherever she goes. Elise then feels a little guilty. If her engagement had been successful, her maid could have continued working at the castle instead. She apologizes for the fact that her maid has lost that opportunity because of her. Her maid immediately protests and asks Elise not to say such things. In fact, she explains that Elise has become much more active and energetic ever since the engagement was broken off. Of course, she is happy about the delicious meat and all the wonderful food Elise comes up with, but that is not even the thing that makes her happiest. What makes her happiest is seeing Elise smile so much more often now. Elise cannot help but think that her maid is such a kind and wonderful person. Her maid chuckles softly and reminds Elise that tomorrow marks the beginning of a completely new chapter in her life. It is undoubtedly going to be a fun and exciting journey. Elise thanks her sincerely. With that, her maid leaves, wishing Elise a good rest for the night. She still needs to return to the salon and help clean everything before going to bed herself. Elise wishes her good night as well. Once she is alone, Elise lies down on her bed. So many things have happened leading up to this very day. Ever since her engagement is broken off, the memories of her previous life return to her. At the same time, she retains mixed memories of little Elise. With those memories, she begins doing things she never would have imagined before. She experiments with food, enjoys parties, and finally allows herself to let loose and have fun. Unlike the daughter of a Marchioness she is supposed to be according to the dating game, Elise once again realizes that she is living inside the world of that very dating game. And she remembers exactly what kind of character she is supposed to be. She is the villainess who treats the heroine cruelly. There are also love interests in this world, just as there are supposed to be in the game. Elise knows that this is a game world, but she is living here now. This is no longer merely a scenario that she has to follow. She does not intend to let a predetermined scenario decide the course of her life. From now on, she will decide how her own life goes. That is how Elise has been living. Even so, she feels a little sad knowing that she will not be able to see Luke for a while. It would be fun to recreate the cuisines from their previous lives and try them together. After all, they are both reincarnated people who share memories of another world. However, Luke is a prince, while Elise is not in a position where she can simply ask him to accompany her to her territory. Just as she is thinking about all of this, there is suddenly a knock on the door. Elise recognizes the voice outside as her maid's and realizes that she is still awake. She tells her maid that she has not gone to sleep yet and invites her to come inside. Her maid enters the room and immediately reveals that something has happened at the salon. Everyone there has been excitedly talking about something. Elise notices how unusually rushed her maid seems and tells her to calm down. It is rare to see her this frantic, so Elise encourages her to take a deep breath before explaining what has happened. Her maid finally tells her the shocking news. Prince Luke is going to come with them. Elise is stunned. Her maid, however, is absolutely delighted by the development and considers it wonderful news. Elise points out that Luke has not actually said anything about coming with them yet. Her maid explains that Elise seemed to enjoy talking with Prince Luke so much that she began wondering whether he might want to accompany them. Apparently, the possibility has now become much more than a simple thought. Hearing this, Elise cannot hide her happiness. She is genuinely delighted by the news. It means that the journey ahead is going to be even more fun than she expected. Her maid is certain of it as well. She then reminds Elise, with a playful tone, that she had better actually dress properly this time. Elise smiles. Today, tomorrow, and even the day after tomorrow, there are so many things waiting for her. For the first time in a long while, she finds herself looking forward to everything that lies ahead. Life in this world truly is beautiful. Finally, the day they are supposed to set off arrives. Elise feels as though she has been asleep for 2 whole months. No wonder so much has happened in the time leading up to yesterday. Before all of this, she is nothing more than an ordinary, middle-aged woman. Then, one day, she falls down at home and blacks out. When she regains consciousness, she discovers that she has been reincarnated into the world of a dating game. However, her engagement is broken off, allowing her to leave that particular stage of the story without any trouble. From there, she begins living a slow and peaceful life, making ramen and growing vegetables, only to make ramen again afterward. Every now and then, she visits the castle, where she prepares ramen and dumplings before returning to her peaceful routine of making ramen once more. Eventually, she even ends up eating ramen with the prince of the neighboring empire, who is also a reincarnated person. The two of them become friends. Now that the prince has officially joined their journey, even the title of the story has been updated. A brand new chapter has begun, and its title is The Journey Back to Their Territory. Suddenly, Elise opens her eyes and wonders whether everything that has happened has merely been a dream. She can only remember that something important has changed. Yet, when she looks around, nothing seems different at all. Everything appears to be exactly as it was. She almost laughs at herself for worrying about it. Still, setting off on a journey always makes her feel as though she has stepped into an RPG. She remembers how her auntie sometimes used to talk about such things in her previous life. One of the first things that comes to her mind is opening a status window. She wonders how funny it would be if such a thing actually worked in this world. To her complete surprise, it does. A status window suddenly appears before her eyes, leaving Elise stunned. She can hardly believe it. There is no way this is actually happening. Yet the information displayed before her is real. She is only level 1, but somehow her HP and MP are already at their maximum. Even her storage capacity is described as limited in a way that somehow sounds practically unlimited to her. Whatever the explanation may be, she immediately recognizes how useful this ability is going to be. At the same time, she begins to realize that she truly may have been reincarnated into a world that functions like a game. Then she notices something even stranger. One of the peculiar creatures from the island that she had tamed seems to be capable of living here as well. Elise becomes confused by this unexpected discovery. She had never imagined that the creatures she encountered on her island would be able to accompany her outside of it. Before she can think about it for too long, a loud noise suddenly rings out. That familiar bird from earlier appears once again. Elise immediately recognizes it. She remembers the skill she has just seen and decides to use the status skill. When she taps on it, she discovers that the birds are moving around on the island. Even more surprisingly, she can actually communicate with them and talk to them. This means that these creatures can come along with her too. In her previous life, Elise had always wanted to visit an island called Hachiho Island. Because of that, she had named her own island Hachiho Island as well. Looking at the way everything is developing, she realizes that this whole thing resembles a farming simulator game. Naturally, she decides that she wants to begin by planting potatoes. She also starts thinking about the ocean. Perhaps the ocean will become available once her level increases enough. If that happens, there may even be various kinds of seafood waiting for her to discover. Then, before she knows it, the potatoes are already ready. She is prompted to harvest them, which makes Elise wonder how they could possibly be ready already. It has barely been any time at all. She starts harvesting, and the results are astonishing. There are potatoes, carrots, onions, strawberries, and red beans. In just 5 minutes, she manages to obtain an incredibly good harvest. It is far more productive than she ever expected. Even better, she discovers that she can place everything directly into her unlimited storage. She can freely store the items there and take them back out whenever she needs them. It is incredibly convenient. Among everything she has harvested, she realizes that she especially needs some red beans. This is fantastic. To Elise, the island feels like a place overflowing with hope and dreams. She immediately decides that she is going to make red bean paste today. Her mother loves sweets, so she is certain that her mother will be absolutely delighted when she gets to taste them. Elise can already imagine all the delicious red bean sweets she could make. There is only one problem. She does not have any milk. After finishing up with the island, Elise eventually comes outside. Her brothers are already there, and they greet her by wishing her good morning. Elise returns the greeting while secretly thinking about how bright and dazzling these two seem even this early in the morning. Somehow, they manage to sparkle despite it still being so early in the day. Her brothers then check whether she has finished packing everything she needs for the journey. Elise, however, has something important to tell them. It looks as though Elise has obtained a brand new ability. Her brothers explain that the ability allows her to store almost anything, with the exception of living things, and that she can make excellent use of it. It is not limited to food either. She can also store clothes, weapons, and various other belongings inside it. Elise immediately realizes how useful this will be. She explains that this will make transporting all the baggage for their journey much easier. Instead of having to carry everything with them, she can simply place their belongings into the storage and take them out whenever they are needed. She then wonders whether it would be alright to tell their father and mother about this new ability. Her brothers assure her that it is perfectly fine. Elise then asks her brother to go ahead to the dining room and wait there. She tells him that she will join them after preparing some dessert for lunch. There is also something she has been wanting to cook for lunch, so she intends to prepare it before everyone eats. With that, Elise heads over to the chef. She asks him to boil the red beans together with beet sugar. The chef agrees immediately, assuring her that it is not a problem and that he can take care of it. While the red beans are being prepared, Elise decides that she is going to make pork cutlets. Since they are about to begin their journey, she wants to prepare something that will help make their departure successful. She gathers everything she needs. There is the boar meat, the beaten eggs, and the crumbled bread. The oil is already prepared and heated as well, making everything ready for her to begin frying. As Elise works, a wonderful aroma begins spreading through the area. Suddenly, her father arrives. The moment he enters, he comments on the beautiful, almost dreamlike aroma filling the air. It is no secret that her father absolutely loves deep-fried dishes. The smell immediately captures his attention, and he eagerly decides that he wants to have one of the freshly prepared cutlets. Elise, however, quickly reminds him that he should take only one for tasting. Her father agrees to the condition and prepares to try it. At that moment, Luke also appears. He reveals that he has heard everything that has been going on. He cheerfully greets everyone with a good morning, and Elise returns his greeting. At the same time, she wonders whether Luke has decided to play detective today, considering how suspiciously well-informed he seems to be. Luke eagerly explains that there is always only one food tasting. Elise immediately points out that it is not always just one. Luke quickly responds that sometimes it is two, right? Elise finds his reasoning far too convenient. She tells him that he is getting too close and that he is definitely getting too close. Luke, however, refuses to give up. He starts throwing a little tantrum, desperately wanting to have a bite of the freshly prepared cutlet as well. Eventually, he goes over and takes a bite. The moment he tastes it, Luke begins to cry. The cutlet is simply perfect. He thinks that such a cutlet is exactly what is needed for setting off on a brand new journey. It tastes incredibly good, and somehow, it seems to give him a tremendous amount of energy. Even the way it tastes feels like a very lucky sign for their upcoming journey. Luke then tells Elise that she must be wishing for a big win. Elise agrees that he is right. She is indeed wishing for a big win. Elise's father watches the exchange and tells Luke that Elise's cooking is always wonderful and delicious, is it not? Luke enthusiastically agrees that it is absolutely delicious. Then, without hesitation, he addresses Elise's father as his dad-in-law. Elise's father immediately objects. He tells Luke that it is far too early for him to start calling him that. Elise suddenly becomes suspicious. She wonders what exactly is going on. She cannot help but question whether a new engagement has somehow been arranged between the two of them while she was gone the previous night. Luke quickly clarifies that nothing has been made official yet. However, he seems completely confident that it will be great once it happens. He believes that the two of them will get along very well. Elise cannot help but admit that this situation is much better than being engaged to someone she does not even know. Luke immediately takes this as confirmation that she feels the same way. He says that he knew it all along and happily declares that he is glad to have her as his fiancée. Elise, however, immediately starts beating him. She makes it very clear that she never said that. Luke's excitement does not change the fact that Elise is not prepared to let him get carried away. She tells him that he is allowed to have only one more tasting. At the same time, she continues beating him for jumping to such an outrageous conclusion. Finally, Elise reminds him that they are all going to eat together with everyone else. There is no reason for him to keep trying to taste the food before then. He simply needs to wait until lunchtime. For now, everyone has to exercise some patience and wait until the proper meal begins. Luke says that, seriously, it is so nice to eat food like this, even though he is already accustomed to this kind of food from his previous life, and he sincerely thanks Elise for it. Elise quickly makes it clear that, just so he knows, she did not cook all of this specifically for him. Luke smiles and teasingly remarks that he is lucky enough to see her translucent side. Elise immediately realizes that he has just delivered exactly the kind of translucent line she expected from him. Her face turns bright red with embarrassment, and she starts hitting him while complaining that what he just said is far too embarrassing. At that moment, the chef notices that a delivery has arrived. The delivery man explains that the food, plates, and various other supplies have to be delivered. He mentions that recently, nobles have become increasingly reluctant to shop in the royal capital, so he wonders what the occasion is. The chef explains that their master and the entire family are returning to their territory this afternoon, and that these deliveries are part of the preparations for their departure. The delivery man becomes confused and wonders if that is really the reason. The chef confirms that it is. The delivery man then asks the chef whether he thinks it might be possible for him and his family to travel with them. Apparently, taxes in the royal capital have increased so much that living and doing business there has become increasingly difficult. Noble territories seem to have a much better economy, and because of that, the delivery man's family has begun considering closing their business in the capital and moving away. Elise becomes thoughtful as she realizes just how difficult life in the royal capital must have become if even merchants are seriously considering abandoning the city. The butler arrives and says that this should not be a problem. He tells the merchant to follow the end of the line of soldiers preparing to depart. The merchant becomes extremely happy upon hearing this. He immediately says that he and his family will bring all the wares they currently have with them. The chef hears this and realizes that their baggage is going to become absolutely massive. Afterward, Elise calls the chef over and explains the entire situation to him. The chef becomes incredibly excited when he realizes what this means. If they are taking so many supplies with them, then they can bring as many ingredients and seasonings as they want. There will be no need to leave behind all the things he normally would have had to abandon. The butler also says that he is looking forward to their meals during the journey even more now. The chef suddenly wonders whether they still have enough time before departure. If they do, he wants to pack all the cooking equipment that he had originally planned to leave behind. The butler says that, in that case, he will also take another look at the baggage and see what else they can fit in. Luke then approaches Elise and tells her how much he likes seeing everyone who serves her family looking so happy while working there. Elise explains that it is probably because her parents manage the household so well. They are still very much in love with each other, and to Elise, they are practically an ideal couple. Luke then says that, in that case, perhaps the two of them should become like her parents. Elise immediately blushes at the suggestion. She tells him that it is far too early for something like that. Before she can recover from her embarrassment, the chef arrives and announces that the red beans are ready. Luke immediately turns toward him in confusion. He wonders what red beans he is talking about, and then realizes what they must be. He asks Elise whether she has made red bean paste. His curiosity instantly gets the better of him, and he eagerly asks to try it. Even Elise's father seems to be completely interested in it. Elise decides that she will take the red bean paste to her mother first and let her try it. She asks Luke and the others whether they cannot simply wait until lunchtime. As she carries the dessert away, a strange thought crosses her mind. She seriously wonders whether her cooking has somehow lured Luke into becoming engaged to her. Before she can think about it any further, she knocks on her mother's door. Her mother immediately comes out and hugs her. She has already heard about Elise's new unlimited storage skill, and she is incredibly proud of her daughter. She wonders whether it is actually a skill that civilians in ancient times could obtain as well. Elise herself wonders about that too. The skill certainly does not seem like a normal ability one would obtain in a social game. Her mother then explains that they had been trying to raise Elise like a princess so that she could eventually marry into the royal family. However, with this new development, Elise no longer has to worry about that. They can finally return to simply being mother and daughter. Elise agrees, but then realizes something important. She wonders whether Luke is not also a member of the royal family. Her mother, however, says that she no longer cares about royal norms. Instead, she intends to arrange all kinds of beautiful dresses and accessories for Elise so that her daughter can truly shine. Elise immediately imagines what life will be like once they return to their territory. She realizes that she is probably going to become her mother's personal dress-up doll. Her mother finally notices what Elise is holding and asks what it is. Elise explains that it is a dessert she has prepared for lunch. She thought her mother might want to try it first. Her mother's eyes immediately light up with excitement. She thinks about how wonderful it is to have such a beautiful darling of a daughter. The moment she takes her first bite, her expression changes completely. She declares that it is delicious. More than delicious, it is absolutely heavenly. The sweet beans and sugar slowly melt inside her mouth, while the soft umami flavor dances across her tongue. A deep sense of satisfaction spreads through her entire body, leaving her feeling content from head to toe. Elise watches her mother's reaction and cannot help thinking that her mother is practically a red bean alien. Her mother then tells Elise that she would like to eat all of the red bean paste herself. Elise is stunned by the request and wonders whether that is not perhaps a little too much. She begins wondering whether ordinary mothers and daughters normally interact like this. She knows that she is capable of taming monsters, but she starts questioning whether she is still an ordinary daughter at all. After all, she has already tamed a bird this very morning. Then another strange thought suddenly enters her mind. She wonders again about the loinclothed man she encountered. For now, however, she decides that it is better to forget about that. Her mother then announces that they are heading out after lunch. Before they leave, however, she intends to have 3 bowls of the red bean paste. She even says that they have to eat breakfast first. Elise is left completely bewildered by this statement and has to explain to her mother that the red bean paste is actually a dessert. Despite the confusion, the preparations for their departure continue, and finally, the time comes for the family to head out. The merchants are now back with an enormous amount of stuff, and when Elise looks outside, she is stunned by the sheer number of carriages that have gathered. Someone approaches her and explains that he has heard she is capable of storing all the baggage. He learned about it from her father, who also instructed him to make sure that Elise's storage ability is used in secret so that nobody can discover it and exploit her skills. He then asks Elise to accompany the guards he has brought and proceed with the storage as quickly as possible. Elise thanks him, thinking to herself what an incredibly capable butler he is. The merchant then approaches her and says that they have heard she can even carry all of their baggage herself. He expresses his gratitude to her for helping them so much. Elise assures everyone that they can all count on her. Once everything has been taken care of, Elise wonders if that means they are finally finished. Everyone thanks her for her help, and just as she begins to relax, she suddenly catches the scent of something delicious. She immediately sniffs the air and asks whether lunch is ready. The butler approaches and thanks her for all the time she has spent helping with the preparation. He then asks her to please go and have lunch with everyone. Elise immediately starts running toward the dining room, thinking that everyone must already be waiting for lunch. When she arrives, her mother tells her that they have been waiting for her and that something smells absolutely delicious. Her mother explains that she has not had such a huge appetite since breakfast that morning. Elise thinks that this is pretty normal, isn't it? Her mother then wonders what is about to appear on the table. Even Elise's father already knows about one of the dishes. He explains that there is a meat dish called a cutlet. The outside is wonderfully crispy, and the more they chew it, the more sweet, meaty juices and beautiful flavors spread across their tongues. He describes it as a fantastic and truly experienceful dish that everyone absolutely has to try. Elise immediately realizes that her father knows far too much about the food. Her mother turns toward him and wonders how he knows all of those details. Elise thinks that if her father had simply kept his mouth shut, neither she nor her mother would have realized that he had already tasted the food. Her mother then notices something else and asks why Prince Luke's face is completely frozen like that. She has never seen him look so serious before. She wonders what happened to the usual jokester Luke. Elise immediately realizes that she has to save him. She quickly tells her mother that there is plenty of food coming their way soon. She lists everything that is about to be served: ramen with a light soup, fried chicken, a deep-fried pork dish called cutlet, and deep-fried sweet dumplings for dessert. Her mother's attention immediately locks onto the final item. She is astonished to hear that there are deep-fried sweet dumplings. Her mother then realizes that the red bean paste Elise showed her earlier is actually going to be used as the filling for those dumplings. The outside is crispy while the inside is moist and sweet. Elise also hints that there is a special secret involved. Her mother's excitement immediately returns. She cannot wait to see what the secret is, and Elise is relieved to see that her mother is completely fine again. With that, the food begins to be presented. Everyone is invited to go ahead and start eating. The ramen is made with chicken broth, something everyone has already tried before, and the soup turns out to be just as delicious as expected. Elise's father immediately puts 2 pieces of cutlet into his mouth at the same time. Her brother Toli, meanwhile, is already a huge fan of the fried chicken. He casually cuts one of the cutlets into pieces and places some shredded cabbage on top of one of them. He casually smiles as he eats. Elise looks around at everyone. Those smiles are rare. Everyone is enjoying the meal, and seeing their expressions makes Elise smile as well. This is exactly what she wanted to see. She wanted everyone to be happy. Luke then turns toward Elise and thanks her for earlier, explaining that she saved him. He cannot help becoming excited whenever he sees food that he remembers from his previous life. Elise tells him that she understands completely. She also sometimes gets sudden cravings for food from her previous life. She even realizes that she probably looked rather angry that morning because of those cravings. But in reality, she had thought that it would be fun to sample all of this familiar food together with Luke. Luke smiles when he hears that. He is happy to know that he had popped into her mind during an ordinary moment of her life. Before Elise can dwell on that thought for too long, the dessert begins to be presented. Elise suddenly realizes that she had completely forgotten that everyone else is still there. Caswell comments that he prefers eating sweet and sour things rather than simply looking at them. Meanwhile, Elise's mother becomes incredibly excited when she notices the strawberries. There are strawberries too. Elise looks toward her mother and wonders whether she thinks the result is good. Her mother considers it absolutely fabulous, happily enjoying the combination of sweet conversation and the sweet dumplings at the same time. Elise's older brother also takes a bite of the dish. He immediately becomes curious about where Elise has obtained such strawberries, noticing that their taste and fragrance are remarkably different from the ones he has known before. Now that he mentions it, even Elise's mother realizes that these strawberries are far superior to the ordinary ones they have eaten before. Elise then decides to tell everyone that her new skill is responsible for the change. She is not entirely certain how she can properly explain the situation, but she tells them that she planted the strawberries herself and that they simply grew this way. Fortunately, everyone accepts her explanation without pressing the matter any further. They become interested in obtaining the seedlings and ask Elise how they might acquire them. Elise cannot help wondering whether her brother truly wants to cultivate them. Her mother, however, is already convinced that the strawberries will disappear in no time because they are so delicious. The cuisine called cutlet has also turned out to be fantastic, and its sweetness is especially incredible. Everyone can see that Elise's cooking abilities have the potential to develop the territory even further. Elise's father then turns his attention toward Caswell. He believes that the strawberry seedlings could potentially become one of the pillars supporting the lives and livelihoods of the people in the territory. Caswell shares the same thought and agrees that the seedlings may indeed become an important resource. Hearing this, Elise begins thinking that perhaps she can make use of her endless storage ability once again. If she can store the seedlings inside it and take them out whenever necessary, transporting them will be much easier. She immediately decides that she should bring everyone some of the seedlings. She has been hoping to help the territory even before the journey begins, and this seems like another opportunity to contribute. Luke then wonders whether he can help with the work as well. Elise immediately welcomes his offer and happily accepts his assistance. With that, the two of them give each other a fist bump, sharing the excitement of working together. Elise's brother also makes it clear that they are completely satisfied. Having such a large and delicious lunch before setting out on their journey has left everyone feeling content and well prepared. Elise then turns her attention toward the butler and asks whether the chef and the kitchen staff have been preparing her cuisine throughout this entire time. The butler confirms that they have, explaining that all of them have been working on the lunch because they wanted to make everyone happy. This makes Elise realize something that she had not considered before. All of the staff members who are supposed to accompany them on the journey must have had almost no time to eat themselves because they have been so busy preparing the meal for everyone else. The realization touches Elise deeply. She cannot help thinking about how kind and considerate the people around her are. She feels genuinely grateful to have such wonderful people working alongside her and supporting everyone in the territory. Elise turns to the butler and asks whether there are any cutlets left over. If there are, she suggests putting them between 2 slices of bread, as that will make them much easier to eat while they are traveling in the carriage. The Marquis also expresses his gratitude to the butler for everything he has done for them. He entrusts the manor to him and asks him to take good care of it while they are away. The butler respectfully assures him that he certainly will. With that, the butler turns his attention toward Elise and asks whether he may have a moment of her time. Suddenly, all the people who were present earlier begin coming forward. The butler explains that the servants would like to say a few words to her. The staff then express how all the recipes Elise has taught them have opened their eyes to an entirely new world. The dishes, ingredients, techniques, and flavors she has introduced have given them an entirely different perspective on cooking. The staff members who are remaining at the manor, including the chef, intend to continue practicing and developing the new skills and flavors Elise has taught them. They are determined to keep improving even after she leaves. The people who are accompanying Elise on the journey also take this opportunity to express their feelings. They explain that every day spent here has been filled with surprises and new discoveries, and they are grateful to have experienced all of it. With that, they all bow respectfully to Elise and wish her a safe and pleasant journey. Elise feels deeply moved by their words. Whether they are accompanying her on the journey or remaining behind at the manor, she wants to thank every single person. She expresses her gratitude to everyone gathered there and hopes that they will all continue to keep in contact with one another. Luke then admits that it feels incredibly sad to leave. Somehow, during all this time, he has begun to feel as though he is also a member of Elise's family. Elise responds by reminding him that he has his own castle that he can call home. Suddenly, Elise notices a notification appearing before her. She learns that she has leveled up. Her field expands with the level increase, allowing her to harvest even more crops. To her surprise, she also obtains rice. The new crop immediately catches her attention. She receives another special reward as well, and this time it is a special fertilizer pack. Elise becomes even more excited when she realizes what she has obtained. A fertilizer pack is exactly the kind of useful item she can make good use of, and she happily thanks Mr. Status for the gift. However, she begins wondering whether there might be a better name for the system. After thinking for a moment, she considers the name Dog and decides to give the system that name. The system immediately questions whether its name is really supposed to be Dog. It clearly does not seem pleased with the choice at all. Elise is surprised by the reaction and begins wondering whether the system has actually responded to her for real. She quickly decides to change the name. Instead of Dog, she chooses the name Navi. The system reacts much more positively to the new name and appears genuinely happy with it. Elise learns that now that the system has a new name, a new function has also been unlocked. Elise becomes even more intrigued. With so many different fields and crops available to choose from, she begins wondering what she should grow next. There are vegetables, fruits, and even beans, all of which could be useful. She also wants to grow some herbs that would work well with meat dishes. There are so many possibilities that choosing what to cultivate next becomes difficult. The journey ahead is going to be long, and Elise realizes that she may end up being extremely busy throughout it. Her maid suddenly calls out to her and asks her to come this way. Elise follows her toward the carriage, where she discovers that she can even lie down comfortably inside. Elise notices just how enormous the carriage is. There is more than enough space for both of them to sit and move around comfortably, making the long journey much easier. There is also a small nook near the door, and Elise notices Luke there. Luke explains that he will be traveling right beside her carriage. If she needs anything at all, she only has to call out to him. Elise feels reassured by his presence and tells Luke that she genuinely feels safe with him. With that, everyone begins saying their goodbyes to Elise. They wish her a pleasant journey and hope that she has a safe and enjoyable trip. Elise assures them that she will. She thanks everyone once more and promises that she will see them all again soon. Speaking of the route to their territory, the group decides to take Salt Avenue, which is the route that merchants often use. There is also an inner route that traveling traders like to take, but that road is probably much more crowded. Elise finds it incredibly convenient that she can use the map as well, making it much easier for her to understand their surroundings and keep track of their journey. Her maid comes to her and explains that the message Elise taught her to send while slightly floating has been extremely useful. She also reports that her bottom is not hurting at all anymore. Elise is relieved to hear this and feels glad that her maid is doing well. Suddenly, there is a knock on the door, followed by a message for Elise. They are informed that once they reach the open plain beyond the next town, they are going to establish a base camp there for the night. Elise becomes excited at the thought. They are actually going to go camping on the very first day of their journey. Since they will be staying outdoors, they also need to make sure everyone is properly armed and prepared for anything they might encounter. Her maid immediately says that she will bring out the armor. When Elise puts on her winter armor, she thinks that it looks incredibly cute on her. She becomes curious about what kind of material the armor is made from. Her maid explains that it is made from giant white rabbits, which are actually jumbo monsters. Apparently, these enormous creatures are even taller than ordinary people. This finally explains something that has been bothering Elise. She has been wondering about the huge carriage traveling behind them, and now she realizes that it must be carrying a monster extermination squad from the royal capital. Her father and his men had probably been planning to stay in this village at first, but the village turns out to be far more desolate than Elise expected. Their group is simply too large to stay there comfortably. Elise is surprised that a village located so close to the capital can be in such a poor and deserted state. She thinks about the work of the monster extermination squads and realizes just how important their job is. They need to hurry and eliminate the monsters threatening the area so that places like this village can become safe again. Elise's mother is also present, and she admits that she feels nervous but excited about their first camping experience. Her father, Caswell, Tolly, and the others are there as well. Elise then notices what her mother is wearing. Her mother has put on a surprisingly sexy piece of armor, which makes Elise wonder whether she is somehow cosplaying as someone. Her maid also looks at the armor and thinks that it is absolutely gorgeous. She explains that she has heard that Sylvanian women wear that particular type of armor. Elise's mother calls her over, and Elise notices Luke hiding nearby. She tells Luke to stop hiding and come out as well. Elise tries to reassure him that her mother is not scary, although even she is not entirely certain about that. Luke questions whether that is really true, and Elise can only admit that it might be true after all. Despite everything, Elise's mother is clearly looking forward to dinner at the camp that evening. Elise is already planning the menu for their first night outdoors. They are going to have potato soup with vegetables and some meat, and she also plans to prepare apple compote for dessert. She asks the chef to cut up the vegetables and meat, and he agrees to prepare everything for her. Elise then explains that she has prepared something resembling a brick oven using magic. Luke is surprised that she can actually make something like that, and Elise explains that she can construct it with earth magic. Luke becomes excited by the idea, and Elise proceeds with the construction. Before long, the brick oven is finally completed. Both Luke and Elise admire it, pleased with how well it has turned out. It makes an excellent brick oven for their barbecue, and Elise is satisfied that they will be able to cook properly even while camping. She also begins thinking about how she can make use of the resources available to them. She plans to cut trees from the woods on our island and use them as firewood later. She prepares the dry firewood and the water bowls while the merchant approaches and asks whether he should put the ingredients into them. Elise agrees and has him begin preparing everything. At last, their first meal at the camp is ready. The warm food immediately makes Elise feel comfortable and cozy. There is something especially pleasant about eating warm food outside with everyone together, and she realizes that it is nice to enjoy a meal outdoors with the entire group once in a while. Her mother also enjoys the meal, especially the apples, which she finds delicious. The first dinner of their journey turns out to be a warm and comforting beginning to their camping adventure. Elise notices that her mother somehow manages to be cute, gorgeous, scary, and cool all at the same time. She is truly a complete chaos of a person, and Elise cannot help but be fascinated by her. She notices one of the other merchants and asks whether they are adding more ingredients to the soup. They reply that they are. The soup already tastes incredibly good, so they decide to add some of the jackalopes they obtained along the way, along with some of the vegetables they brought with them. Elise is genuinely surprised that they are using the jackalopes for the soup. She immediately reminds them that they need to make sure there is enough food for everyone to have seconds. There is no way she wants anyone in their large group to go hungry. Luke remarks that, judging by how much everyone is eating, the people in their group are going to turn out to be real foodies. After a while, Elise notices that Luke has been watching her for some time. Eventually, he approaches her and indicates that he would like to speak with her alone. Elise agrees, but suggests that they move somewhere a little farther away from the others. Luke agrees and follows her. The others call after them, telling them not to go too far and, more importantly, asking them not to do anything indecent. Luke immediately responds that he has not even begun thinking about anything like that yet, which only makes the situation more amusing. As they walk away from the camp, Luke comments on how wonderful the food smells. He then begins talking about Elise herself. He says that his mother is an excellent cook, and that Elise has strikingly beautiful eyes like a kitten. He also notices how slender she is and admits that she is exactly his ideal type for a wife. Elise becomes genuinely excited upon hearing this. No one has ever told her something like that before. She knows that she has her parents to thank for giving her such a beautiful face, but she has worked incredibly hard every single day to maintain her figure. Hearing Luke openly appreciate both her appearance and her efforts makes her very happy, so she sincerely thanks him. Luke then tells her that he is also amazed by the oven she has built. A stove of that particular design does not exist in this world, making it obvious that Elise has created something completely unfamiliar to everyone around her. Elise explains that she got the idea from a barbecue grill in her previous life. While thinking about the design, she also realizes that this world does not have anything resembling the wire mesh used in the grills she remembers. Once again, she has managed to reproduce something from her previous life using the materials and magic available to her. She wonders whether the strange invention looks unnatural to him. Luke admits that he supposes it probably does, but he says that he actually likes the way Elise reminds him of his old life. There is something comforting about knowing that she is reincarnated just as he is. He encourages her to use her magic in whatever way she sees fit instead of worrying too much about whether her inventions look unusual. Elise thanks him and tells him that she feels the same way about him. Knowing that there is someone else nearby who has also been reincarnated makes her feel incredibly safe. She no longer feels as though she is the only person carrying memories of another life in this unfamiliar world. The two of them continue walking and talking. They become so absorbed in their conversation that they eventually realize they have traveled quite far from the camp without even noticing. Luke agrees when Elise points this out, and the two continue their walk for a little longer. Finally, Elise asks him what he actually wanted to talk to her about in the first place. Luke becomes slightly embarrassed by the question. Seeing his reaction, Elise starts wondering whether he has been dragging his feet because he wants to discuss their engagement. Perhaps he is simply trying to work up the courage to bring it up. Or maybe he is planning some kind of joke. Whatever the case may be, Elise knows that she will not abandon him, even if he ends up making a terrible joke and completely misses the punchline. Suddenly, however, they hear something nearby. Elise immediately warns Luke to be careful because something appears to be coming in their direction. She quickly steps back and watches the ground closely. The creature suddenly disappears underground. Elise realizes that it must have been some kind of monster. She assumes that it has burrowed into the ground and is trying to approach them from below. But then, without warning, the creature emerges from behind them. Elise realizes that it has come back and that this one is even bigger than the first creature they encountered. Before the monster can attack either of them, Elise quickly slashes it down. Luke immediately follows up with another attack and delivers the final blow. Elise thanks him for finishing the monster off, while Luke thanks her for making the first attack and creating the opening for him. Only afterward do they realize exactly what they have encountered. Neither of them can believe that a dusk boar has appeared all the way out here. Elise had not even known that this particular monster was called a dusk boar. From her perspective, the creature had felt almost like she had kicked some small animal. It had simply burrowed straight into the ground, making her think that it might have been a mole or something similar. Luke warns her that they should remain on their toes because there may be more monsters nearby. However, before they can relax, they notice something strange happening again. The ground begins to rise. Something is moving underneath them, and it appears to be coming back out of the earth. Luke immediately tells Elise to stay back. The ground suddenly begins to crumble as whatever is underneath struggles to emerge. Both Elise and Luke stare at the collapsing earth with widened eyes. Then, something finally crawls out. Instead of another terrifying monster, they discover that it is a tiny kitten. The two of them are completely stunned. Their fear instantly disappears, replaced by overwhelming awe and affection as they gaze at the adorable new creature before them. Elise wonders if the little creature in front of her is a kitten. The system then asks her whether she would like to tame it, and without hesitation, she immediately agrees, saying that she would love to. Since the kitten is now going to be part of her group, they decide to give her the name Tama. Tama gratefully thanks Elise for having her, and Elise is delighted by the fact that she now has a cute little companion. However, she quickly remembers that she still has the tusk boar to deal with. She moves to store the tusk boar away as quickly as possible, intending to make sure that nothing gets left behind. Meanwhile, Elise suddenly notices that Luke is already shouting loudly. His behavior immediately catches her attention, making her wonder what could possibly be wrong with him. He has not acted this strangely since the very first time they met, so Elise cannot help but feel that something unusual must have happened. Her brother also approaches after hearing Elise scream earlier. He explains that they heard her cry out and came to see what was happening. Elise tells him that Luke is behaving somewhat strangely, but her brother and the others seem to think that this is probably normal. After all, Luke has always been a strange person in his own way. Elise admits that they are both right and wrong about the situation. Her brother and the others then tease her, pointing out that Elise and Luke are lovebirds and therefore should be able to notice even the smallest details about her fiancé. Elise insists that it is not like that, but she also realizes that Luke is always so strange that it becomes difficult for them to tell when his behavior is actually different from usual. At that moment, Thomas suddenly alerts Elise that several large cats are approaching from their direction. Elise initially wonders whether Tama is referring to the tusk boars, but Tama confirms that the creatures coming toward them are indeed the ones she means. She explains that the large creatures are chasing them. Luke immediately becomes concerned upon hearing this and questions whether Tama herself is being chased by them. The realization that a tiny kitten has been pursued by such dangerous creatures makes him extremely upset. To Luke, the idea of monsters attacking a harmless little kitten is completely unacceptable, and his protective instincts immediately kick in. Elise tells her brother that she will explain everything about Tama later. There is no time to discuss how she obtained a talking kitten or why Tama is now accompanying them. For the moment, the more immediate problem is that a pack of tusk boars is apparently heading straight toward them. Her brother quickly understands the seriousness of the situation. He tells the other people to go and warn everyone at the camp. Not everyone traveling with their group is trained for battle, so they cannot allow the tusk boars to reach the camp and cause chaos among the people who are unable to defend themselves. The safest choice is to intercept the monsters here and stop them before they can get any farther.